Shah had a plan, oh grand and true, to bring back a custom just for you, a dowry's charm to rekindle the fire. In a world where romance might expire, he'd gather gold with wit and flair, pledging his heart beyond compare. For in the shimmer of that old dear gold lies a tale of love, both brave and bold. Bring back the dowries, let's make it clear.
What's going on, Don? Good to see you, man. My bad, it's like I forgot how to do my own streams or something. Peace to you too, man. Good to see you. Hopefully it's not too loud. Yo, Avalanche. Good to see you, man. Shout out to you, formerly known as Mr. Pitt. Male Space, good to see you, man. Yo, Michael, shout out to the Silver Pill. Feng Yuan, man, good to see you. Appreciate speaking to you in the Discord. Good to see you. I'll let this play for a little bit, and then once the folks come in, you know, we'll get down to business here. So just gonna give some time for some people to come in. Bring back the dowry. Hope everybody's been okay, man. I had a long weekend last week, and came back Monday night, chilling with the folks. You know what I'm saying? Well, you could definitely say I had one too many. Well, I had 4 too many cigars. And I got a good piece of content coming out for y'all. It's gonna be fun. I'm still working on editing it, but I'm like 80% through, just trying to fix some audio quirks. New start time is legit. Do you like this time better, Mr. Pitt? I just pushed it an hour because I was tired, and we had spring forward, so that the hour jumped ahead over here. And I was just exhausted from the week, man. So I was like, man, I gotta push this to 8. I was thinking to go back to 7 next week, but if you think 8's better, then maybe that's the way to go, huh? Glad to see you guys. We'll see how many of the folks remember I exist, since I haven't streamed for the past 2 weeks. Which is regrettable, but, you know, we had to do what we had to do. Real quick. I had to take all my cameras with me on the plane down south. You like 7 yourself? Okay. Maybe we'll keep it 7. Personally, I like it, but in my opinion, you should make it a poll. Okay, maybe when we get some more folks in here, we can do that. Eastern time zone for me, though. That makes sense, yeah. So you're already a couple hours ahead. Oh, man. Forgive me if I'm a little slower tonight. It's been a long week. Right to another hitter, actually? All right, let's play that. Shout out to Luke. Nice, man. This is going to be a fun one. We're at about... Oh, damn it. 4 minutes. We got time for one more song. Then we'll just get into it. See who shows up. It might be just us tonight, folks. It's gonna be a little bit more of an intimate setting. Geo for Show says, "Where can I tune into the podcast you did with the guys?" That's coming out soon, man. I'm still editing it. I had to put 5 cameras together and 4 mics separately. I got all the cameras done, and I have the audios like almost perfectly synchronized. I just have a problem with like the second half of it. I'm gonna be posting it on this channel with collab requests to everybody. So I think if you're subscribed to any of our channels, you'll see it. So it should be good. It should be good. Hey, Klaus is in here. I gotta talk to Klaus about something really important. And you know, Klaus, if you don't got the time, I'm not even mad at you. See if I can pull this up real quick. We have a complete German work, basically. Deadbeat woman. Here we go. Let me download that, baby. May as well just copy it into my ultimate files here. Klaus, I know we might need Klaus's help. Klaus. Paste. Okay. Okay, get rid of that. Klaus. All right, let's see. Can I pull this up? Esther Villar. Das End der Dressur. It's a German work. Okay, Klaus. Shout out to Klaus, by the way. We can actually get the show started now that Klaus is here. Deadbeat woman. Klaus, can you see this book here, sir? Can you see this work right here by Esther Villar? And we all know Esther Villar, you know, she wrote that book, The Manipulated Man, which a lot of people in the Manosphere are familiar with, The Manipulated Man. And there is this this book has never been translated into English. And it's one of her books. Oh man, the tunes won't stop unless I stop it, huh? And Peter Wright, you know, sent me this, and I was gonna probably run it through like a translator where I can, but apparently it's kind of interesting. There's maybe even some gold pillish-esque stuff in here, and it's kind of like her trying to figure out what does the world look like in a post-feminist world, or as far as the deal between men and women. So it's completely in German, and I was wondering if I can get you a copy, if you can kind of peruse through it and just tell us if you see anything. I mean, feel free not to read the whole thing or anything like that, but if you do see anything, maybe you can be like, hey, you know, I noticed she mentioned the dowry at this part. I did do a search and I looked for Mitgift, which is the German word for dowry. I unfortunately did not find it, but you know, if you could just thumb through it. So I'll connect with you on Discord and I'll send this to you. And maybe, you know, maybe we can get something going here. So yeah, Klaus, we may need to recruit you, for some work. Hey, look at this right here. Setzt Theory Schlieblich in die Praxis Hey, look, the praxeologist will be happy. Hey, Red Pill praxeologist, we got you guys right here. So yeah, you know, there's I don't know what polygame is. I don't know if that's polygamy, but we're about to find out. All right. So yeah, Klaus, that's my hope there. That's my hope for you, man. Yo, Luke Nielsen, man, shout out to you. And of course, Raymond, Thoughts and Mine. Great to see you as well, sir. I was watching your stream a little bit earlier today. I think, Ray, I saw you in your kitchen, which was pretty fun. All right, well, we got the folks in here, so I'm planning to just react to this tonight. I don't think we'll do too much tonight because, you know, I won't make the stream run too long, so I got to ease back into this, you know. And of course, you know, I wanted to show you guys a preview, but it's on my other computer. But I have a panel show with Paul Elam, It's Complicated, Matt Cross, and I having a discussion. And, you know, maybe I could show you guys a little bit of, well, nah, it's all right. I'm about like a couple of days away from having it fully edited. Then I'm going to send it to the guys and make sure they're okay with it. And then once I get the clear from them, then I'm going to post it on the channel. So we're almost there. We're almost there. Interesting. Never heard of it. W. Bratya. My man, Avalanche. Shout out to Avalanche. Sure, I could have a look. Awesome. Yeah, I'll connect with you later on that. That interview was awesome. Go Elam. And of course, it's complicated. Epic. I'm glad you liked it, man. I'm glad you liked it. It seems kind of like, it didn't get a lot of views, unfortunately, but I think these interview style videos, they're not the same as the street interviews, but that's okay. We're going to watch it. And I'm glad that, we get to sit here and watch this. I remember when this was being filmed, I could have stayed and listened, but I didn't want to be a third wheel. So I just let them do their thing. And man, we had a blast. Man. Hanging out with Paul Elam was really cool. I was just very appreciative to be able to do that. And hanging out with Matt Cross was really cool also. And of course, John from It's Complicated. But we went out there, man. We did all kinds of stuff. We were on a boat. We went to the cigar lounge more than we probably should have. Got some good food, had some good conversations. It was a great time, man. Paul is a class act all the way. So yeah, we'll be diving into this. I don't really got much else today as far as the brain rot's concerned. We'll get back to the regular programming next week. And a lot of my bandwidth's just been going to editing this thing. So once that's done, hey, Heroes Forge, good to see you, man. Heroes Forge and I were supposed to have a collab today, but we postponed it to next week. So that's going to be going down too. So yeah, good stuff on the Heroes Forges channel. He's been having some fun collabs, so definitely check him out. And I just say we get right into this, huh? How about that? How about we just get right into this? Okay, so Paul discusses red pill, the manosphere, and men's rights. All right.
Well,
let's see.
The red pill as a sort of a terminology was created, or was got bounced around back in the day in the old seduction communities.
Okay, so here's Rolo.
Forums. And we didn't even really call it red pill at that time. We said unplugging from the matrix, right? Because I believed all of these things about women. I've been playing by the rules. I've been playing by the old set of, rule book, and I've got nothing but I'm single and sexless, and it doesn't work for me kind of thing. And I believed all this stuff. And then when men understand their own nature, and they understand women's nature, and they understand intersexual dynamics between the two of them, then they sort of pull themselves out of this matrix, and they start putting themselves into, came out of the gaming community, meaning pickup artists and stuff of the early 2000s, which evolved into what we call the manosphere and what we call the red pill right now.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Okay, nice, the Matrix.
And if he swallows the red pill, the scales will be peeled back from his eyes. He will see everything that he hasn't been able to see. And if he takes the blue pill, he'll just go back to sleep.
And you guys probably recognize this. This is from the Red Pill documentary, 2015. That was from Cassie J, and it featured Paul.
And live in his sort of unaware, semi-comatose state forever, and probably be a lot happier. It's a pretty apt analogy.
So what is the blue pill in this world?
Well, the blue pill is the paradigm that most people live by, that men have all the power, that they've always had all the power, that domestic violence is a problem that's committed by men against women only, that sexual assaults are only committed by men against women, that women don't make the same money for the same work as men. Men commit domestic violence. We need to stop violence against women instead of just stopping violence. That is feminist training.
All right, man.
My name's Paul Elam, and you can find out more about me at paulelam.com. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and all the blah, blah, blah. You reach me at any of those places.
What's the difference between Paul Elam's red pill and Rollo Tomasi's red pill?
We're coming out of the gate strong, I see. Okay. Well, let me see, how can I put this? My idea of the red pill was always about men's autonomy and independence and their personal growth outside of the realm of women. And from what I've seen of Rollo's work, I read his book, one of them anyway. I read The Rational Male. I've seen a lot of his podcasts, and his work, at least in my opinion, tends to emulate certain Machiavellian tendencies and is about manipulation, control, not things that, if you're interested in a relationship with a woman, not things that build a relationship, but things that ultimately undermine them.
That's a interesting comparison. And we saw the first two clips here. And, you know, one of the things from the panel podcast that I discussed was that as far as the men's space was concerned, there was kind of like two main avenues for how guys found the space. And, you know, one way is guys who been through the divorce and been through the family law and all that, and maybe they were married and probably not so much concerned about how to get female attention because maybe they were able to do that, or at least had girlfriends or women just from an older generation, from before dating app times. But then they did catch the bad end of the old, you know, family law stick. So those guys were kind of comparing notes, and that's more maybe on Paul Elam's side in terms of guys congregating there. And then Rollo's side of the equation is guys interested, like, hey, forget about marriage. How do I just get female attention in terms of like, how do I, you know, as far as the cultivating attraction and the stuff that evolved out of the pickup stuff. So as John likes to call it, the divorce problem or the incel problem. So it's just interesting, to see how those two kind of dynamics led to this coalescing of the Manosphere as a whole. I appreciate the shout out. Hey, no worries, man. What's up, Shah? This is going to be my first time watching Paul Elam's interview with It's Complicated. Awesome, man. Well, yeah, we're going to have fun, man. We're just hanging out. Good to see you here, Dan. Rollo gets credit from a lot of guys for getting their minds sorted in a way that makes their relationships better. So I don't know if this is quite right from Paul. Open to hear more, though. Yeah, I mean, looking at, like, if I designate Rollo's red pill as just the intersexual dynamic stuff, which he kind of mentioned earlier, he has described it himself as the Chilton manual, so to speak, of, I guess you could say, female nature, or at least what I describe it as what increases or diminishes attraction. And I would say the red pill sell on that side is that this works whether you're in a marriage or in a relationship or just playing the field, so to speak. Where Paul Elam's side of that is, no, that's good for pickup artistry and maybe short term. And that's how I kind of look at it too. I would say that stuff's important, but when it comes to the long-term deal, that is, maybe some matadors could make that happen, but you're relying, you're relying on keeping the marriage going by being solely like this kind of expert on, passing all the poo tests and doing all this stuff to keep her attracted to you and trying to fight her hypergamy, as the red pill likes to say, female hypergamy, and it doesn't matter if you're in a marriage, the hypergamy is still at play. The red pill also says only women are hypergamous. I think both men and women are hypergamous and have been historically. So in a sense, yeah, there is a utility value to Rollo's stuff for sure, as far as that goes. I just tend to look at, there's still an issue with the long-term deal. And I think Paul might be getting at some of that too. Bingo, the Matador theme is perfect yet again. Actually, I did talk about the Matador in the panel interview because John mentioned it. He was like, your recent video, the Matador. So I got a chance to explain it, which was pretty fun. Man, I really want to get that video out for you guys. I promise you I've been working on it just between everything. It's just, it's a lot because it's 5 different camera angles. And you know what? I'm going to show you a little preview that I had sent to Peter Wright. Let me just down, because it's not on this computer, so I can't pull up the whole thing I have done. But just to get you all hyped a little bit, let me see if I can do this without having a... I don't think Twitter is going to let me... Oh, never mind. So here's a little... This is just me recording my camera Hold on, let me see if I can get a better. This is from my cell phone recording my actual. Oh damn! There's no volume control on this. That sucks. All right, well, whatever.
Say this is how humans were in the past. Hope I didn't destroy that.
I mean, a simpler way of a simpler way of putting it is gender roles are mandatory for men, they're optional for women. Why is that?
I mean, that's what a lot of people.
They weren't optional until about 250 years ago.
You talking about when women got liberated, or
women used to work?
So we're gonna have a good hour and a half of this, and Matt's on the other side. That clip just didn't happen to show him. Maybe it did. There's another 30-40 seconds to that, but just so you guys can be hyped up a little bit, because I know you guys want to know when's he gonna post it. But I just want it to be like very nice. And there were a couple times during the filming where there were some guys doing some construction work outside, so I'm gonna try to do some noise cleanup on that. But other than that, man, I got all the camera shots perfect, and it's gonna I want it to like feel like you're sitting on the couch with us, like just on the other side of the room, and you're just watching the guys. I really hope it comes off that way. It's kind of hard to hear. That's okay. That's okay. Well, it's gonna, when it happens, it's gonna happen. So, yeah, Matador video was quite good. I'm glad you like that, man. I am going to make more shorter videos. I just haven't, because I came back from this trip with like a giant editing project, which I'm in the middle of doing. But there's gonna be a lot more, and that's what I want to do. So I will be. Hello, Shah. Can you link the video? Yeah, I'll put the video in the chat. Here, let me do that for you right now. This is on It's Complicated's channel, and it's a collab post with Paul Elam. So if you go to either of their channels, you should see it. Yeah, so there you go. There is definitely value in the red pill concepts in marriage. It's just a matter of being a responsible practitioner. It's like power or money. It is a tool, and it's all in how you use it. Yeah, I can get that too. I think the part that's important to clarify is, I think some people can get so overconfident, they think that they can probably take what's on paper a bad deal of marriage, and then they can basically game their wife, so to speak, to never leave, which I think is a kind of a dangerous bargain. So, you know, us at the Gold Pill over here, we're looking at what makes a good deal for marriage outside of these different concepts, you know. So concepts with game is an interesting thing, and it certainly has its utility value. There is a bit of it where I think it kind of gets sold as a cure-all, though. So that's, and in our conversation, in the panel conversation, some of that's going to be in there. So maybe I shouldn't say too much of this right now, but it's, you know, it sounds like it's going to be part of this conversation. Yeah, that's where I stand too. Red pill knowledge is just that. How you use it, however, is the real indicator of where you stand. But I can sort of make out what you guys are saying. Don't worry, man. When it comes out, Dan, I'm going to make sure the audio is good. There's good AI tools for noise cleanup. I have them if you need help. If I really run into it, because there's a couple segments where somebody had some type of motorized equipment out there, and I'm hoping my noise cleanup will make it at least very diminished. And then I have another challenge where I'm dealing with a little bit of an echo towards the second half, but the first half is good. So I've just been racking my brain over it, but eventually I'm going to have to release that, you know, into the wild. You remind me of when Coach says, hip. Shah, I can't wait. All right. Well, I'm glad, man. Good evening. All. Hey, Oikophobics. Good to see you in here. Oh, it's been a while. You got to game the judge. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the ethos in that. Yeah, I agree. Dangerous Faustian bargain. Yeah, exactly. Klaus says, just look the book up. The one you showed is a later reprint with 3 books and 1 paperback. That's why I was confused about the strange title. I have another version from Peter. I will send that to you after the show. So I should be able to get you something workable there. But yeah, okay, fun stuff. So let's go ahead and see what's going on. Shout out to the 17 folks in here. We got 8 likes. If we can turn those 8 likes into 17 likes, that would certainly help me out. All right, let's move.
Why was the original Red Pill movie all about male disposability? Why was the original Red Pill movie all about male disposability and men's rights but the red pill movement is all about self-improvement and dating advice?
Because the red pill movement, as we see it today, isn't red pill. It's blue pill. It's about pursuing women. It's about winning at any cost. It's about, I think, a lot of ego, a lot of grandiosity, and almost nothing about personal values, integrity, or the things that actually make a man's life better.
Why?
Interesting stuff there. I mean, that's a pretty strong statement. John has a video called "Red Pill is Blue Pill," and from the definition of it, if it's mostly about getting women, which I think some people would deny, then yeah, you can say it's still kind of women centric or very women focused in a way. The original documentary is one thing, and that probably got a lot of people into the space. The other side of it are all the pickup forums and stuff like that. And for me personally, I used to read the subreddit. So that came around like 2013-ish or something, which was a couple years before the documentary from Cassie J. So, again, there's two major avenues. There's the men's rights, and then there's the pickup, if you can call it pickup, the intersexual dynamic side. But the intersexual dynamic side kind of is the one that gained a lot of steam. And especially as you saw the YouTube content creators come in the game, there were folks from the MGTOW side, but then there were also folks from the other side. And I think at the end of the day, the more entertaining content wasn't so much the family law, men's rights stuff. It was the what's your body count stuff and all that kind of thing. So, I think that kind of explains how that happened. And then it just really became about that more so. I have echo and noise reduction tools. Appreciate room reverb reduction. I mean, yeah, that's the problem because we weren't shooting it in the studio. It was in this room, and you can kind of hear an echo in this one too. Because obviously there's no studio panels, but that's all part of the fun. The first title, The Trained Man, is released from 1971. That should be interesting. Yeah, there's some good stuff there, and the fact that it's never been translated, Klaus, I think it can definitely make at least a good discussion or a video for me to go over. So I was just hoping to grab a few salient points from it and see if there's anything gold pillish in there. Morals, ethics, and values, that is what makes a man who he is. Yeah, I agree. That's another thing that's going to be discussed a little bit in the panel interview too. So anyways, let's move on.
Why was there no mention of a high-value man during the men's rights discussions of the past?
Things that actually make a man's life better.
Why was there no mention of a high-value man during the men's rights discussions of the past?
I think we assumed that men were high value to begin with. If you have to point somebody toward being high value, of course you're addressing a problem. And don't get me wrong, I think there's some real benefit to this stuff, to pursuing better jobs, better health, better status even. I think those things are worthwhile goals.
I agree with Paul there. It is good to work towards that stuff. The stuff you see in the space is like, where it really got out of control for me is the hyper masculinity, the sort of Bugatti stuff, and these sort of roided out alpha male gurus telling everybody how to live. I think another way to kind of rephrase the question here from it's complicated is, well, he's asking like, why was there never mention of the high value man earlier? And I would say because the focus back then wasn't about hypergamy. A lot of the intersexual dynamic side focuses around this concept of hypergamy. Hypergamy is also almost one of these sacred cows in the space. So with such a fixation on hypergamy, it's natural that a discussion about being high status, I always say high status because when I read the academic papers, they tend to say high status instead of the Kevin Samuels TM high value man. But the high value man comes in as a possible solution for the hypergamy problem, which is something that men's rights isn't looking at that. Men's rights is looking at men as a collective, just as far as gender specific issues for men goes. And that doesn't matter whether you're up here on the hierarchy or down here, everybody's a man. On the dating side, this mating hierarchy, if you want to call it that, starts to become really important. And as the dating side of the discussion really took over the space, then, you know, everybody was saying this word hypergamy, hypergamy, hypergamy. So yeah, hi, oh, hey, Elena, good to see you. Hope y'all are doing well over there. Folks over there at the Resurgence. Hi, Sean, everyone. Good to see you. Wes Watson type thing. Exactly. That was too far gone for me. Just raging at people isn't instructive. Yeah. And then, you know, the answer to everything was, hey, become high value and this and that. And it's like, well, even if that happens, it's still not a guarantee that your, you know, marriage is going to work and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I kind of was like, that's interesting. Money, muscles, game, hypergamy insurance for women. Yeah, hypergamy insurance. That's a funny term. I like that. Hypergamy insurance. Good one, Elena. Roid rage is not masculine. It is sloppy, over-emotional, uncontrolled. Hunaya. Yeah, you can say that. It's almost a overcompensation, right? That goes under the hyper-masculinity thing. And it's almost like, you know, in some sense, it's like there is this kind of immature boy underneath all the muscle. There is a bit of overcompensation there. Hi, Donald. Good to see you guys. All right. Yeah, I couldn't rock with it. All right, moving in.
But most of what you see today is that they're pursuing higher status, higher value in order to pursue more women. That to me defeats the purpose. If you truly value yourself, then becoming high value is its own reward in other ways outside the approval or recognition of other people, especially with men for women.
Yeah, and this is where it's like, oh, is the red pill blue pill, or is it gynocentric? You know, you could almost say too, because like there's some parts of, and obviously I think what I call the hardcore red pill praxeologist will say, no, it's none of that. That's the red pill is just studying the intersexual dynamics. And then I think surrounding that is a greater discussion around that. And even back then on the subreddit, you used to get these kinds of maxims that would just swirl around the space. One of them was AWOL, all women are like that. Or that women are solipsistic, or that, you know, they can't, boiling down to women can't be held accountable, so to speak. And they're just hypergamous by nature and all that. And in some senses, it's almost giving them an out, basically. Base FCZ, who I really like and sometimes graces us with his presence, made a video yesterday, and he talked about this a little bit. And he talked about the Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail. And I really like that analogy. But he said you can go so far in on this that you end up coming back being a simp again. Let me just pull up the video for the folks. Yeah, it was really nice seeing a base video yesterday because I hadn't seen one in a while. This video right here. The true red pill is women's feelings are always more important than you, unless... So in here, he kind of he talked about that a little bit. Well, now it's like kind of a main theme, you know, amongst the other things. So you guys should watch this video. I thought he did a great job. I really got to follow up with the base about having a discussion. Hey, Michael, welcome in, man. Courtesy shout out to the silver pill. Sorry, I was on the phone with Post Mailman. Oh, cool, man. Oh, no worries, man. Thanks for coming in. Oh, hey, thanks for that super chat, man. That's more than I deserve. I'll try not to spend that all on cigars. I'll have to put that in my dowry fund. Has anyone gave you money yet? No, not yet. Thank you for that. Long time, Luke. Gold pill, heck yeah. All right. Moving back. Shout out to the 24 people that are watching and to the 15 likes. If we can get that to 24 likes, that would certainly help me.
Why do you no longer work with Warren Farrell?
I wouldn't say I don't work with Warren. Warren and I are friends, and he's a dear friend. He's done a lot of great work. He's currently still pursuing a White House Council on Men and Boys. I'm skeptic about that effort myself. I think that if we get that cancel, it'll be about, you can set your watch, it'll be about 5 minutes until feminists take it over and start talking about toxic masculinity, because that's what happens in the upper levels of our government. No matter whose administration it is, it just doesn't matter. So while it's, I think, a very noble idea to try to establish some sort of understanding and recognition for men, the issues that affect men and boys, I don't see our government ever having an agency that actually does that. It's more likely that they're going to run counter to those interests.
Yeah, you guys know Warren Farrell. I mean, a lot of people heard his name. He was actually interviewed on Whatever podcast, and we did do a reaction to that. That was a while back. Paul was actually inspired by Warren Farrell because he read his book way back, and that made a big impact on him. I believe Warren Farrell was kind of styled or self-described as a male feminist, and then he kind of saw that things were unbalanced. So he started looking at fighting for men's rights in a certain way, but he's been around for a while, a long while. So, yeah.
What happened to his men's liberation movement?
Well, that's a really good question. You may have stumped me a little bit on that. What did happen to it? One thing that happened to it is that they didn't turn it really political. The men's liberation movement was an extension, an offshoot of feminism. And I think there's some worthwhile stuff in that the idea was that once women were liberated from gender expectations, that the same would apply to men. Of course, that never happened. But the idea was there that men could be freed from the onerous financial burdens of women, that women could start carrying more of their own weight with men.
Klaus, if you're there, that German copy of Esther Villar's work is, from what Peter Wright can kind of gather from it, it seems to kind of discuss what Paul is discussing now about women carrying their own weight and what does that look like, and maybe men not being the sole provider kind of deal. So hoping to find some of that stuff in there.
And taking responsibility and the dreaded accountability, which that never happened either, and it's not going to. I think what happened was that gynocentrism battled against true men's liberation, and gynocentrism won. There's been no men's liberation except for a very small percentage, I think, of the so-called red pill community. There's a small percentage of that community who have liberated themselves. I think the MGTOW guys have done it a lot.
Shout out to the MGTOW folks.
I think the rest of it, though, date coaching and PUA and all this other stuff, is just more gynocentrism.
Why?
And the question, like showing that picture with the guys raising the signs, it's like men's liberation was the kind of collective thing. You could see the guys protesting. And then I think kind of what happened is a lot of the space became very disillusioned. And we're probably like, there's not really going to be a men's collective movement. It just hasn't seemed to happen, and it's probably not going to happen. And then it turned to more individualistic things, like either the red pill, as it's more popularly known now, with the intersexual dynamics and all that kind of stuff, the self-improvement. And then also the MGTOW on the other end of that. So it's like, well, the ship is sinking so bad that they're just going to walk away, so to speak. So, yeah. Yo, MGTOW. Heck yeah, MGTOW W. Shout out to the monks. Absolutely. Yeah, shout out to the MGTOW folks over here. Government does not want to change in family law right now. They are getting women's vote through the family courts. Yeah, it's that. I mean, a big part of the economy, I would say, runs on that also in a weird way. Yeah, Donald, I don't think family law is on Donald's radar. Yeah, I don't think it is either, Michael. We haven't really heard anything about that. And as it appears lately, there are other items on the agenda which are taking bandwidth. So, yeah. No way Don's bureaucracy works for men. As much as I love the guy, he's gynocentric. Well, you know, Luke, we certainly haven't heard anything in terms of any family law reform, so it's not looking likely. Um, yeah, so not much on that front. Warlord 1694. Hey, Warlord. The men's spaces have been co-opted by a bunch of extremists and grifters. There are certainly a lot of those. That is, cannot argue with you there. Y'all should come hang out on MGTOW Outlaw's stream. I get a kick out of his stuff. I'll have to watch it. And there's a panel to jump in and hang out too. Okay, well, thanks for that. I think you might have shared some of his stuff in Discord, but if you put something else there, then maybe people can remember to go look at it. There are women's issues and men's issues. Government doesn't care about men's issues because it doesn't help them in office. But they are concerned about women's issues. Women's issues, wage gap, Me Too, custody. Yeah, yo, NZ, just arrived. How you doing, NZ? You look new to me, but maybe you're one of the regulars.
Hasn't he condemned self?
It's just more gynocentrism.
Why hasn't he condemned self-improvement gurus like Andrew Tate and Myron Gaines, who want men to become
more gynocentric and
I was wondering who was saying, why hasn't he condemned Warren Farrell,
it's just
maybe?
more gynocentrism.
Why hasn't he condemned self-improvement gurus like Andrew Tate and Myron Gaines, who want men to become success objects?
My guess would be, I mean, I'm not inside Warren's head, but I know him fairly well. He's not a confrontational person. His style is very different from mine. And I think it's more in line for Warren to approach ideas than it is to explicitly condemn people. Ed, I admire that about him. I mean, that's not a criticism, but I think he hasn't condemned that lot of so-called red pill guys for the same reason he hasn't really confronted and condemned feminists. It's just not his style to be that overtly confrontational and combative.
Well, you know, I feel like Scott Galloway is probably trying to fill the shoes of Warren Farrell at this point, as far as at least, well, except for Scott Galloway has no problem, you know, going after the men, so to speak. But, you know, I think like Warren Farrell is one of those guys who really is kind of in those circles and trying to contact the administration and being taken seriously by politicians in Washington and stuff like that. So, you know, maybe it's tougher for him to kind of do that sort of thing when he wants, maybe he really wants to be, I mean, this is me really making some excuses, guys. I'm trying my best here to give him an out, but to be taken seriously by this kind of, you know, political class and to be seen as a professional, I don't know if that matters or not, but he seemed to have been kind of up there for years. And I even remember there were some talks about he was going to try to get an audience basically with the Trump administration, and they were trying to do that for their men and boys stuff. Paul mentioned some of that earlier. But it doesn't seem like there's been much in the way of progress there, but, you know, I could just be unaware. Farrell is conflict avoidant. Mike agrees. Paul goes head on, locks horns. That's his style because he feels like being nice gets ignored. Yeah, I mean, and it's hard to argue with the results there. Paul certainly is no stranger to that. He's not shy. Success object sounds so feminist. A success object. Well, yeah, I mean that would be like a counter term to like you know, a coitus object, as they like to say. Farrell is a good dude. He just isn't a fighter. He doesn't have it in him. Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe he's probably more the academic, you know, when it comes to this whole thing. Scott Galloway asked a decently in-shape man on Oprah, would you have relations with you, and told an overweight woman in the same audience, you go girls. He's lame in my opinion. I think you sent me a clip of that. That does sound like that's a real, yeah, that's not, he's not doing much to get, you know, he's not winning any battles with that one. Yeah, you posted it on your channel, just simulated what he should have said. Got it.
How did we go from men's liberation to now where men are told they have a masculine burden of performance?
We've always had a masculine burden of performance. I think the men's liberation was like a little blip on the radar screen. It's just a little bump that happened. The forces of gynocentrism had their way. It crushed that sort of attitude from the beginning. I just don't think we got from one to the other. I think where we're always have been at, we find different ways to express it. You know, old school traditionalists will talk about being a great provider and a strong man and appealing to women that way.
That's your TradCon right there.
Well, it's pretty much the same thing you hear from PUAs. Men, when you ask the question,
looks, money, status, I guess you can say. It certainly seemed that way. I mean, a lot of the, maybe you couldn't call them PUAs, but a lot of the panel shows seem to kind of go that way. When they kind of, I guess, came into contact with TradCons, it's like, yeah, we agree. You know, the men should be the providers and all that kind of stuff. And so it just sort of went that way, and there was probably more of an Evo Psych explanation for the PUA side, if you want to call it the PUA side, or that side of things, where the TradCons are, you know, using more of a religious one. Dang it. Oh yeah. Shout out to the 31 viewers who are watching. We got 20 likes. If we can bring that up to 30 likes, that would definitely help me. Shout out to y'all. I'd edit that to say, I didn't see Michael. I don't know why. For some reason, I can't make your comment big on here. Didn't show up on my thing, but Michael Sayan said, Family Court wants men who are team players, quote unquote. If you're too soft or too harsh, you will be trampled in Family Court. Yeah, you certainly will. You certainly will. My gosh. I'd edit that to say Family Court wants slaves. Sit down, shut up, and do what you're told. If you fight, you're toxic. Yeah, I mean, they just want people to pay. They want you in there. They want you to pay the money. And as long as you keep doing that, then, you know, they won't hold you in contempt. That is what team player means. You'll see that in church too. I think there's so-called men's activists are just controlled opposition. These men's advocates, that's an interesting take. I mean, I think there were some guys that were genuine. I think if you mean like a guy like Scott Galloway, I would certainly agree with you on that. Obviously, Paul, I think, would, you know, style himself as a men's advocate. And maybe same thing with someone like Warren Farrell as a men's rights activist. But the guys we got nowadays, at least these newer guys like the Scott Galloway types, I would say are controlled opposition. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about that. I've seen parts of that show that was really cringe. And I don't get why some men are sitting in that panel. You couldn't pay me enough to go through that. Is that the Oprah one? Yeah, Scott's definitely suspect. Yeah. Yep. So anyways, back to this.
What happened to it? The most honest, direct answer I can give you is that men happened to it. 95% of the male population are just simps. That's the way it is. And anything you give them, red pill, blue pill, black pill, gold pill, anything that they encounter, they're going to turn around and figure out how to please women with that.
You know, it's like, it's kind of something to hear Paul say that. Like, it's almost basically like, well, there isn't really a collective movement because men can't stop sabotaging themselves. And, you know, I think as a younger guy, you want to be like, no, it's possible. But Paul has worked with many, many men over many years. And if he's saying that, you know, it's kind of like, it's probably kind of hard for me to argue with that. I'm just saying. But I think maybe he at one time believed it could have been different. And then maybe after years of just seeing men keep shooting themselves in the same foot or constantly signing up for the same crap deal, you know, I don't think Paul's dunking on the gold pill. You know what I mean? He definitely likes the gold pill, but I think he just really believes that a lot of guys, no matter what, just are so deep into the simping, which is like, oh man, you know, but I get it. And this kind of explains why a lot of the space kind of went the direction it did, because it's like, okay, we're surrounded by simps here. And the collective movement is looking like it's probably not happening anytime soon. You know what I mean? So then it became, all right, well, individualism, you know what I mean? And this kind of thing. But then that kind of got out of hand. So, I don't know. Maybe it's something to go back to the drawing board about. Galloway has a completely different motivation as he pretends. He's an investor and wants to get men back into the grind. MGTOW guys are really bad for economy. Work less, spend less. That's an interesting angle there, Klaus. I like that. I don't know. I think a lot of people, when they start getting that big and they hit the mainstream, like maybe it starts out noble enough or honest enough, and then it's like when you start getting some play and you're like, oh, Piers Morgan wants to talk to me about this, or Oprah or whoever, then you to give him an excuse, maybe it's almost unconscious, but it's like you just kind of figure out the formula. Oh, okay, if I say this or I talk more about this, this is what is getting the engagement. This is what's getting me the invites on all these big shows, and then you start selling your book and all that. I don't know. Maybe there's some of that there, and then it just gets focused onto whatever he's talking about. Easy for me to say, I don't know, but that's unfortunate. But yeah, as far as investment goes, like it's just, I don't know. You know what I mean? Is it like, maybe it's something like that. Okay, it's his moment. He's making the rounds now. And then it just becomes appealing to the mainstream in some way. Like, purposely trying to appeal to them. But I don't know, man. It's unfortunate. Luke says Paul isn't dunking on the gold pill. He's just saying that simps will take whichever pill and still simp using the pill they chose, negating it all. Yeah, finding a way to reframe things in a gynocentric way. So I think to distill it down, I think Paul believes if men are going to help themselves, they really have to rid themselves of the gynocentric conditioning. And a lot of guys get to a certain place and then they just become gynocentric. It's like, you guys have probably heard, and Paul even mentioned this while I was down there, that like a lot of guys are one blowjob away back onto the gynocentric sort of plantation, so to speak. Can't remember if he used that exact phrasing. But it's true. And that's where I think his accusation of the PUA stuff still being gynocentric probably fits in, because it's like, it's almost like the anime that I have behind me called Wolf's Rain. And it's about a bunch of wolves and they're looking for paradise, basically. There's a whole mythology behind it. And there's a certain part in the series where they find this like beautiful garden-esque area and they all believe it's paradise. But then they basically, one of them finds out that it's actually just an illusion. Like it's designed to not find the real paradise, basically. And it's like, you fight gynocentrism enough, and then you figure out how to get chicks, and then you're getting laid consistently. And then once you start getting it in, so to speak, then the rest of the you think you made it out, but you're actually just in this illusory kind of Eden that isn't the real paradise. And you just end up falling again for gynocentrism, except this time, you figured out how to get laid in it, basically. But Paul, I think in some way, Paul's basically saying that, like, beyond that, you have to be so far out, like you really have to take out the conditioning there, that it really has to be not letting a woman's influence take you back at all. Forgive me if I butchered that. CGA uses that BJ to plantation line. I remember that. Yeah, CGA says it too. But I Paul mentioned that, or we were discussing that. Hey guy says I'm 2 BJs away, not just one. Well, I guess according to the laws of math, that makes you half as gynocentric. But even just a drop of gynocentrism may be too much. I don't know. I understand. A lot of us men love Jesus, but due to hypergamy. Pastors and legislators are the top 10%ers, married and get validation from women. They have no idea what the average man goes through. Yeah, it's an interesting way to put it there. But yeah, let's go and move in.
Is men's liberation blue pill by today's standards?
Yes, it always has been. There is no at this point. There's no men's liberation. It's not happening. Men are still out there trying to earn more money, trying to buy nicer cars, trying to get better jobs, trying to improve themselves, all in the name of attracting women. And of course, it's why you don't hear, when you listen to tradcons, Andrew Wilson and a lot of them, you don't hear them talking about family court. You don't hear them talking about gynocentric laws and all these things. It's just sort of, man up and marry the hoe and worry about the consequences later. I even heard Tim, I've forgotten Tim's last name, recently talk about, you can meet a woman with purple hair and a nose ring, just go ahead and marry her and turn her into a Catholic. It's this absolutely bizarre.
It's just become so masculine. If you follow my masculinity, my hyper masculinity program, you could take any woman and take them from the edge there and bring them back in. That's kind of funny. I think he's talking about Tim Gordon. So yeah, it's very TradCon-esque right there.
Sort of interpretation of the world and rationalization on steroids.
Yeah, rationalization's a good way to put it there. And it sounds a little black-pilled with the, hey, there's no men's collective, but I think from what Paul has seen, there's just been so many... He's probably seen the stuff gain momentum and then get completely sabotaged by guys again. I don't think it's black-pilled, but... maybe it's a pill some of us have to swallow as far as the men's liberation movement is concerned. Gynocentrism and feminism is a product of men using it to get more votes and money in the church. And that way, yeah, you could say some men sabotaging other men, maybe. Not to say women don't do that to each other, but Heroes Forge says that's the trick for sure. Hard for legislators to identify with the problems in the dating market. This is also often also the case in the church. They bend over backwards for women. Yeah, I think that's more or less what Paul's getting at, that the gynocentrism is just still so entrenched there in the culture that it makes these other things kind of not very likely to happen, if at all. It is good how he is exposing the treadmill for what it truly is, a blue pill woman-centered. Yeah, I think so too. It's that sort of false illusion of paradise, basically, to use that metaphor again. At least that's how I see it. So it's like you get there and then it's like, okay, once you get enough of it, then you're like, oh, all right, well, I'm not worried about that. But it seems very hard for men to want to think on a collective level like that, unfortunately. I still don't understand Andrew Wilson's ecclesiastical thing. What would prevent the state from getting involved? Man, I never watched the rest of that Rich Cooper debate. There's so much back stuff we got to do. I think more or less his understanding of it is, well, don't get the state contract and get a prenup. And then it should be better that way. I mean, that will shield you from more or less some of the merits. Well, here's the thing. You can't really get a prenup if you're... He talks about prenup, but I think he's also cool with not getting the state. But if you don't get the state, license, then you don't need the prenup, so to speak. At least that's... Prenup, to me, specifically goes hand in hand with the marriage license. But there are certain things that the state is always going to be involved with if you have... Especially if you have kids with the woman, right? I mean, so the state can be involved that way. My personal view, though, is it's easier to deal with child support when you're not also dealing with alimony and all that kind of stuff. So that's one way to look at it. But I think when he says ecclesiastical marriage, I think he just means like a marriage solemnized from the church, under God and not involving the state. But I think a lot of churches will be hard-pressed to want to conduct a marriage ceremony and if they knew that you weren't going to get the license. So that part is something to think about. They truly have no leg to stand on other than gaslighting. If you serve her hard enough, she'll put aside her 304 ways. Tradcons. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's kind of no different from the game the judge sort of thing that we laugh at here, right? It's like, listen, and this gets to the utility of the sort of red pill understanding. Like, yes, there's a utility value, and you can certainly stave it off, but I don't think it's a good idea to get into a hypergamous marriage solely relying on your understanding of intersexual dynamics in order to prevent her from leaving. It just seems like a bad idea. Like, just, you will always have to be on your grind 100%, and even then, it's not going to be a guarantee. So that's the only thing where I'm like, so the Tim Gordon guy seems to be kind of, in a tradcon, with a huge tradcon flair there, trying to co-opt the intersexual dynamics things and say, well, you as a man, and when you understand all this stuff, you'll be able to you'll be so good at this, you can take her from wearing blue hair to being a trad wife and holding a basket of eggs like it's nothing. But I'm looking at this from a gold pill perspective, and I'm like, no, that's still a bad marriage deal. Like, if she doesn't come with no kind of nothing except herself, I don't care how good your frame is, you're still walking into a hypergamous situation. So more discussion needed there. Luke says exactly. With women getting the right to vote and women getting on the church's board of directors, men in leadership need the support of women. That is why abuse has to be on every form of legislation. Yeah, that's interesting there too. Yeah, see, I mean, I don't know, and I feel like in some sense it's like, I look at that, I'm like, well, that's just the world we live in now. So it's like, we have to find a way to deal with it. I think some folks are more concerned with putting the genie back in the bottle. I don't know if that's possible. Coach has a kind of a bit on this where he talks about the 5 things that need to happen in order to go back, like basically like a natural disaster or some kind of economic collapse or a big war or something like that. Like, you'd have to get knocked back a lot in order to get that kind of stuff going. So, but we are, we're here now. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, Michael. Don, it's mostly a matter of having a non-state marriage. It's like having a partnership agreement that doesn't stop child support. Okay, so it sounds like there is still, I wonder if that's an agreement in writing. If the state says the way you live is a marriage, then a religious marriage is still marriage in terms of the law plus living arrangement. Yeah, so that's, and I know in Canada, I think every province is like that. That's more or less common law marriage. Not all, like, a minority of states in the U.S. do common law marriage. But to your point, there is still something with cohabitation. Like, you can get kicked out of your own house from your girlfriend if, there's domestic violence, and the court can order you to keep, paying the bill, so to speak. Now, that's better than her owning part of that house still. But cohabitation is usually where things get a little bit more hairier in a way. Women can get out of the religious marriage. They just have to leave the religion. That is what happened to Jeff Younger. That's a good point. Shout out to you, Dan, for that. And shout out to Jeff Younger. Yeah. Don, the Church of England, the ecclesiastical courts had jurisdiction of all matrimonial matters. It took a private act of parliament to get involved in family court cases. Lots of money. Yeah, well, there was no divorce for a while, and then when they finally allowed divorce in England, it had to be done by the parliament, I believe. At least leading up to that, it was not easy to do. So you'd only hear about that from probably some high up folks. And then, after the U.S. allowed divorce, eventually England started to do that too. So yeah. Yeah, I don't believe social consequences are really anything significant to them. Some states will take evidence of a church marriage as being married. That's true. That would be, I think, your common law. There are specific cohabitation agreements that can be written to prevent common law presumption. Child support is still at issue for sure. Yeah, child support is, nothing can touch child support. That's always gonna be the deal there. So, yeah. Andrew Wilson's vision requires a massive overhaul of societal norms. Large swaths of men would need to reject the state contract and marry through the church. The government would simply respond by making common law marriage the law of the land. That's actually a good point there. Yeah, if it did catch on, they might do that. That's a good point, man. Oh, wow. I really like that. Avalanche, formerly known as Mr. Pitt. Dang. Not trying to sound black-pilled over here, but Oh man, yeah. See, this is where the cohabitation comes in. We all need to take advice from Dontavia. I know, right?
You gotta stay gaming, bruh. Don't focus on no girls. Just
Thanks
stay
for bringing
gaming.
that up. I actually, yeah, we needed to hit that sound effect actually. And man, I've been big on the gaming right now, man. I got a second PS3 because, you know, just so I can have a backup. I got Shadow of Colossus on PS2. Great game. It's a great unwind after a long day of work kind of game. And I got some other games too. So yeah, just, you know, Dontavius.
You gotta stay gaming, bruh.
Absolutely.
Don't focus on no girls. Just stay gaming.
We do need to hear this.
Your dowry, it's my right.
And this.
There was a dowry or a bride price.
Exactly. So yes, I almost, you know, I gotta remember my sound effects here. Thank you for that, Luke. Yep. I second that motion, Luke. I love being lectured. My bad. We'll get back to this. We're just hanging out, man. It's been a long time. I love being lectured by try-hard cosplay con men like Knowles. Oh yeah, he's I don't know, man. He's he's a smart guy, but he comes off a certain way and sometimes seems like he's being purposely not trying to see certain parts of this. As if they're more masculine than I am with their fake hipster look and cigar lounge. ROFL, I knew more masculine men at 18 than them. Yeah, I kind of see them as trying to co-opt the cigar from Andrew Tate. They saw Andrew Tate get big and they're like, well, we got to start smoking cigars now. Now, I will say, Paul and I really enjoyed cigars, and it wasn't to look cool. We actually enjoyed it. I smoked a total of 4 cigars with Paul, and we were having a blast. I know I put some of the pictures in the disc. You know what? I'll bring one of them pictures up for the folks who haven't seen it. Oh man. Here's one right here. This is what Matt crossed. That's me behind the cigar smoke. There's Paul having a blast. John from It's Complicated. Man, this one was great right here. Man, we had some good cigars. Man. And then I came back and I had to, slow down on the cigars, basically. It's not fun smoking a cigar. I mean, like, maybe every now and then, but for the most part, it's the kind of thing I like to do with the folks, Yeah. In Canada and certain provinces, you are considered married after living together. Yep, that's like a common law right there. Klaus says the ecclesiastical marriage wouldn't work anyway. When too many men would do that, the state would find a way to recognize the marriage retroactively and issue the license. That's how it works over here. And Klaus is our eyes on the ground in Germany. Yeah, and that's basically what Mr. Pitt said here. They would just respond by changing the family laws again. And then it wouldn't even matter when you got married because the law is going to apply to you anyway. So, right. So realistically, all the state has to do is say church marriages count now too, pretty much. Hey, Post Mill, man. Good to see you, man. I think we should live the lion lifestyle. I keep hearing about this lion lifestyle. I don't know what it is, but my mind goes towards polygyny because don't lions kind of just have, more than one lioness, so to speak? Now, if you're talking about eating beef all day and things like that, I can get behind that. Yeah, some nice red meat. That sounds real good. With the cigar after, too? Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm exploring that on my channel. It's more like the bride price system of marriage where the woman brings her labor to the marriage. That's interesting. You know what? I got to look at your channel. Did you do a video on that? I'll watch that. That sounds kind of interesting. The lion lifestyle. That's fun. Most of the times when I see tradcons defend marriage, they would either try to mix the secular and religious marriage together, or they would try to pull heartstrings with the you will die alone. Yeah, it's the you will die alone, or you got to save the society, or it's something like that. I think they try to play on the hero archetype. Listen, just keep this in mind, all right? When people want to get you to do something for them, they try to manipulate you by making you feel like a hero. And maybe it's not always a bad thing, but it's just like, hey, you want to be a hero, don't you? For this or for the woman or whatever. And just keep that in mind. When you hear the hero archetype you know, playing on the piano, just keep in mind, someone's trying to get you to do something, which usually involves probably a lot of sacrifice on your part and a whole lot of gain on somebody else's part. Everyone expires alone, everyone. Hey, you know what always weirded me out? When people are like, you're born into this world alone and you're gonna die alone. And I'm like, what do you mean you're born alone in the world? Like, didn't you come out of another human? Like, by definition, you are born into the world with another person. I'm just saying, you know, unless you were literally like in the old mythologies, like put to exposure where they like it was Sparta and they just they left you outside for 3 days and saw if you were still alive when they came back. I don't know, maybe then, but other than that, sorry. There's a whole team of people when you were born. You were there. The hospital thing was beep, beep, making all these noises. There was a bunch of nurses running around. The doctor spanked you on your behind. So, yeah, the die alone part, maybe that's more true. Shah, marriage was a sacrament. The Matrimonial Clause Act of 1857 took the jurisdiction of matrimonial matters from the ecclesiastical courts and gave it to their civil courts, equity courts. Yeah, and that's when you could say divorce came into the system, where prior to that was just annulments. Oh man, I love cigars. I quit smoking 3 years ago, though. I hear you. I look for a lot of excuses, typically around holidays. Gosh, gotta sleep. Take it easy. Hey guys, man, thanks for coming in. We'll watch the replay tomorrow. No worries, man. Thanks for being here. We're just having fun. 4 cigars. I just bought a bunch of punch cigars that are 92, 93 rated, which are nice. That's awesome. Yeah, we had a Cohiba one night. We had a Monte Cristo one night. The other one was a Diamond Crown. I can't remember what the 4th cigar was. Oh man, it was the first one, and it was kind of like a square shape, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but that one was all right too. My gunner and I smoked Dominican cigars while mortars were falling on us in our FO forward operating base. I think that's what that is. We just didn't care. Now that's badass. Yeah, that's way more badass than the Daily Wire smoking cigars. I made an image that you could possibly use for your video. You don't have to use it or use the ones I made from Sora. Yeah, I mean, listen, that helps, man. Let me look at it real quick. I might actually do that. I do got to think of a thumbnail for the video. That's kind of cool. If I can't find another one, I might actually have to use that, because I do need to solve that issue. So, yeah, thank you for that. All right, let's move in, folks.
Does feminism benefit men in any way, and if so, how?
I'm going to get hell for this.
That's an interesting question. Coach always says feminism freed men.
I'm going to say yes.
Oh, there you go. Now Paul's saying it.
Feminism ultimately inspired me to become Red Pill. Feminism, women's demands, we want to be treated as equals, well, but special, but we want to be treated as equals. We want to make the same money. We want all these opportunities. We want to compete in the world of men. And we demand that, and we'll crush you if you don't give it to us. It did finally inspire some guys to say, well, okay, you can have that. I'm happy. Yes, get in the coal mine. Oh, you don't want the coal mine. You want the corner office without having earned it. I think that sort of behavior in women, and I mean, we're calling it feminism, but this is very female behavior. That sort of behavior is inspiring guys to walk away, along with the family courts and the rules of dating. And I mean, oh my God, the dating environment, we could go on for an hour about that. It's absolutely insane. But I think it has prompted guys to rethink, you know, what their role is, what they want their role to be with women. And now we're even having discussions on dowry coming back.
Yeah, shout out to
probably
the dowry.
not going to happen anytime soon, but the fact that we're talking about it is amazing.
So let's hear that one more time.
Your dowry, it's my right.
You know, I could see what he's saying. In a way, it's like it's almost, you know, aside from the laws itself, it has given men an opportunity to rethink things. Now, a lot of people don't like that. TradCon specifically don't want men rethinking things. But in some ways, there is a kind of liberation there. But the kind of liberation there for men is still a tough one, because you have to really create a path for yourself. There is no laid out one, which is maybe the toughest part of this situation. But real quick, I need to hear this again.
There was a dowry or a bride price.
And having discussions on dowry coming
Yeah.
back. Probably not going to happen anytime soon, but the fact that we're talking about it is amazing.
Man, that is
so
so
I think,
cool.
I think feminism has been helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, that's true. The dowry shout out. Heck yeah. Yo, Raymond, Shah just finished a 12-hour stream. Dang, man. Shout out to you, bro. 12 hours. Now, if anybody needed a cigar, it's this man. Even though I know you don't smoke cigars, but wow. That's crazy because I was watching you earlier at like 3 o'clock my time. And even before that, I think I clicked on your stream probably a couple times today. 12 hours, man. That's a stretch. I hope you sleep well tonight and you buy yourself a ribeye because you earned it, man. Good stuff, Raymond. 12 hours. I don't think I've ever done 12 hours. I don't think so. That's I don't even know that's a long one. That's a record, man, at least as far as the folks I know. Anyone who is religious, I have a question. Does your religious book tell you the state is supposed to be involved in your marriage? No, I haven't heard that. If I'm not mistaken, marriage is supposed to involve man, woman, and God. You know what's funny? I gotta stop saying this, but Paul mentioned that too. Oh, dang it. Did he say it in the panel interview? I can't remember. He did mention that while we were down there. His thing was, oh, no, I don't think he said it on the interview, but we were talking and he was like, somebody asked him, or he was somewhere and somebody asked him about that. Or they came in and did something and Paul was like, they kind of annoyed Paul a little bit. I mean, he didn't say that, but Paul was like, there's 5 marriages mentioned in the Bible. I can't remember the number he said. How many of those mentioned getting involved with the state? The guy didn't have much to say. That's pretty funny. Love you, man. Thank you, bro. Love you too, man. One of these days, man, Raymond and I are we're gonna meet up somewhere in real life and eat a steak together or something. Thank you, Raymond. You're the man. Michael says, Warlord, I believe history tells us that marriage is a covenant. Because of that, usually people had their God witness to their covenants. Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the contract goes, the contract aspect of it, so long as there's been marriage contracts, like that presupposes going to trial if you have to, or not trial, but going to court possibly. So in that way, the court is there, but then most of that just rests on what's in the contract, I would think. So there were probably still some understandings of how to go about certain scenarios, but, in some ways, yes, when real property is involved, then that maybe gets you tied in with the state in some ways, 12 hours, rough, solid work, absolutely. Shout out to Raymond again. Warlord, heck no, the book doesn't directly say anything about the state administering marriage. Other way around, state tells the religion what's up. Because the breaking of the covenant is the death penalty, covenant word is birth. To cut. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong. Birth. This is where they would cut the animal and pour out its blood to ratify the agreement. Was blood for blood. That's interesting. That sounds very Old Testament right there.
Pointed out women's hypocrisy and gave men an actual visible incentive to do things differently.
If
do things differently. I think that's the most important part right there.
Actual visible incentive. It pointed out women's hypocrisy and gave men an actual visible incentive to do things differently.
If feminism frees men from traditional obligations and being a utility, why are men's rights at odds with feminism?
Well, because feminism doesn't do those things. It never did. Feminism was always about female empowerment, entitlement, and shirking accountability for personal failure. That's all feminism is. I don't care what anybody else says. I think it's great. I guess I think it's great that women vote. I don't think the outcome has been that great, but constitutionally speaking, it was a decent idea to let women vote. It's a decent idea to let women work and to earn high degrees and to explore their options in life. But feminism as a liberating force for the sexes, no, man. We've got millions of women right now with 2 kids at home, missing their mother all the time while they're sitting in a cubicle with bags under their eyes because they bought a bill of goods that's empowerment.
I think he's right there, though. Feminism, it's more just about getting more power for women. And the evidence of that is these Scott Galloway figures going around and saying men are falling behind and all this stuff. It's because, yeah, they stopped caring. They didn't care about men. They didn't care about boys. And it's obvious that feminism definitely did. And it wasn't about equality between the sexes. It was more power for women. New Testament stuff in a marriage is mostly a rehash on much of what is in the Old Testament. Okay. Contract means enforcement through the state. Covenant means enforcement through the community, war or vengeance. Simple definition. It's an interesting way there. Most of the direction in the book comes from the Old Testament. Lots of stuff lined out there. Okay, cool.
And all I can say is welcome to my world. It never was empowerment to be a wage slave.
Why does the Manosphere spend so much time focusing on masculinity rather than misandry?
Because the Manosphere is populated mostly by insecure simps trying to acquire some sort of masculinity. And they don't know how, which is why they have coaching programs and all these platforms that allege to provide men a pathway to masculinity when that's something that they'll never get by somebody else's pathway.
Man, that's a tough one right there. I think a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I think it would be tough to argue with Paul. I mean, certainly the place gets taken over by grifters. There is a lot of that going around, but that is what they're looking for, and I think it gets into a discussion about how people view masculinity or what it is, and how it's changed in terms of people's perspective on it, and if you think of things like quote unquote hoflation, then what does that mean for masculinity and the kind of masculinity that's being sold out there? I think there's a lot of questions that kind of come out from that. Marriage in the Bible is covenantal, witnessed by social and family. There isn't even a prescribed administration by religious leaders either. But there is tons about arrangements and agreements involved in marriage. If it was about equality, we would now have a program to get men into universities. It's now about 70% women. Yeah, and instead it's just like, well, boys are falling behind.
Does a man need to be masculine in order to have equal rights?
No. I mean, people should, it should be equal rights regardless of where you are on it. But let's see what Paul says.
No, not legally. I don't think.
Legally, exactly.
Does a man need to be masculine in order to have his needs met?
I think so. Yes. But first, he has to even understand what his needs are. And most men don't. They're inculcated in a way of thinking and living that makes them assess what women's needs are and what women want. They are generally not even allowed to talk about or think about what they actually want in life other than a woman.
That's a great point, too. And you see that where if a man does discuss his needs, people jump all over that guy and get pissed in some ways. It's like, I'll sometimes see this on dating apps. Like, you'll see like a woman's profile and she'll be like, she will name all these physical attributes she wants in a man. If a guy does that, suddenly it's like you just only want women as sex objects and all that. It's just, there's just these interesting double standards there. And I know he's talking about more needs than just physical needs, but that does even go into other kinds of needs. Maybe what you want out of the marriage or this or that. Like, no, well, your job is to protect and provide and make sure they're all this and that. Put your needs last and all that kind of thing.
Why are men more concerned with being feminized than with being demonized?
I think that's because they're feminized and they know it.
That's a good question. This gets into the discussion about misandry.
Why are men allowed to get angry when they're attacked on their race, religion, or creed, but not when they're attacked simply for being male?
Because it runs up against the feminist narrative. I mean, yes, we live in a victim-centered culture, and cultural identity, race, skin color, religion, all these things put you in a special attention, special education program to garner you sympathy as a victim. But there is no sympathy. And this is why I've really tried to stress to guys over the years, if your idea of a men's movement is some sort of national mass movement, it's never, ever going to happen. It's sad. I wish it could.
It is sad, guys. Yeah, hard pills to swallow in this discussion.
In a way. But this society runs on women's wants and needs, and it has for 1,000 years.
You know what? Let's put that as a poll just for the folks here. And we'll just keep it simple, yes or no. Do you think a national men's movement is possible? Oh, crap. Question mark. Well, you know what? I'll put, do you think a collective national, just to put all the words in there. There we go. We'll do yes or no, and then we're going to listen to Paul tell us this again while the poll's going.
I wish it's never, ever going to happen. It's sad. I wish it could in a way. But this society runs on women's wants and needs, and it has for 1,000 years.
Why does the man?
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Man, hats off to It's Complicated. Yeah, shout out to It's Complicated channel. Those guys come up with the best questions. Darn straight. Absolutely. Yeah. Not an organic one, says Dan. Okay. Well, yeah, it's okay. Oh, I thought it said yes up there. It says no at 70. I thought, I want, there's some optimism. Okay, never mind. Another guy said no. We're at about 17% optimism here. 83% in agreement with Paul. I said no because of simple answer. Simps. Yeah, I could see that. I think Paul has come to a similar conclusion. Too many white knights fighting against the rest of men trying to set things in order. Yeah, it seems like you and Paul are on the same page there.
Wants and needs, and it has for 1,000 years.
I think this is very, I don't know, surprising, but this is definitely consistent with Coach Greg Adams. I think he's of the same opinion that there's not going to be this men's movement there.
Why does the Manosphere recognize Nora Vincent and men having a harder life, yet we have all of these Manosphere coaches telling men to embrace the very same manhood?
That's a very good question. And I think it goes back. It's a complicated story, but basically over the past few hundred years, it started 1,000 years ago, but we started an ethos, and particularly in the West, and it happens in India and other countries too, that the romantic ethos, which is that women are elevated and more important than men.
Yeah, and Peter Wright, shout out to Peter Wright, gynocentrism.com. Co-authored the book Chivalry with Paul Elam, but he talks about that. It's like women get elevated and they become kind of the arbiters for moral purity. This ethos has been pervasive, especially only got more popular. Real quick, that reminds of Andrew Wilson being on Piers Morgan's show talking about how men have these duties towards women, but when Andrew asks what duties do women have towards men, all hell breaks loose. Yeah, I remember that. That one went pretty viral. Men don't stand together opposite women. It's a weird thing. I don't know. Like, there's definitely some element of sabotage amongst both sexes in a way. Some have even said feminism is a way of some women sabotaging other women, but men definitely have their own version of that. It's a tough thing to think about, tough problem to solve. Good to see you in here, UserTube. I don't think so, but most men are trained to be competitive to each other and subservient to women. Yeah, and that's exactly what Paul's talking about right now. Men are set for violence. We are the social enforcers. We talk about it with the community. public forums or we turn to violence. It's one or the other. Okay, real quick, just moving in.
And you had to have, hit me with your question again. I sort of lost my train of thought there.
Real quick, I'm just going to let my cat in. Be right back. Evie. All right. All right, buddy. She's a big cat now. All right, what's up, Mimi? All right, come on. Hang out. Yeah, all right. All right, be good. All right, moving in. Oh, real quick, let me just see these comments. It reminds me of that one reality show island thing where it was men versus women. Men were wrecking, then the women lured the simps in to vote off the male leaders, then backstab the simps later. Yeah, I know, man. That just seems to be a recurrent theme right there, heroes. Oh great. Time to destroy the chair now, huh? All right. I'm exploring more about specifically marriages throughout the Bible using AI, and it points out that the wedding isn't even part of the marriage, but only a celebration. Interesting. Yeah. You know what is there in the Bible?
There was a dowry or a bride price.
Especially the bride price. Like, that's in there. That's fundamental. The marriage transaction is fundamental to the marriage. Right, Luke? There were wedding festivals, but consummation was the biggest factor. I would guess the red pill has to reach at least 80% men and then change would happen without the need for a movement. But just withdrawal of a large part of men from the grind would force change. Yeah, I mean, I think I could see that. It's definitely a mindset change, at least. Or a large pushback on gynocentrism. Or at least a conditioning away from that. Or a deconditioning. Correct, Luke? They would be betrothed if that was the legal marriage. The wedding was 7 days long. It started after they consummated the marriage. Okay, moving in.
Why does the Manosphere recognize Nora Vincent and men having a harder life, yet we have all of these Manosphere coaches telling men to embrace the very same manhood?
Because it's still chasing tail. I mean, that's the simplest answer, what they're telling men. And so we don't just condemn the platforms and the people doing this. They're selling what men want to buy. Men want to buy the idea that if they're more masculine, they'll get more women. It always goes back to the women. So it's an easy sell. Even though the standards and ethics of that kind of masculinity leave men vulnerable to all kinds of problems, family courts, false accusations, paternity fraud, you go down the list.
This is the long-term issues.
That very ethic is what enables all this stuff to happen, but that's still what men want to buy. So there's plenty of guys out there saying, hey, man, if you want to buy strychnine, I'll sell it to you.
Why is passport bros an acceptable solution when it comes to dating, but not when it comes to any other grievance of the average U.S. citizen? Would a women's advocacy group tell them to leave the country rather than change laws?
It's another good question.
Well, I mean, that combined, listen, from what Paul mentioned earlier about the a low chance of the men's national movement, pretty much said it's not going to happen, and that's because the gynocentrism. Then passport bros is one other solution to that once you've accepted that. I'm going to end the poll, though. 73% of you guys agree with Paul here. Do you think a collective national men's movement is possible? 73% say no. 27% say yes. So, yeah, here we are there.
I think, again, my answers aren't going to be that complicated. I think this goes back down to being laid. That's still the number one priority. And it's not that that's all men want. They do want other things. Men are hopelessly romantic. It's sad how romantic they are. They want families, they want mothers for their children, but first and foremost is the biological imperative to spread seeds. And so, look, I just got back from a trip to Thailand. Sexual abundance everywhere. A woman there gives you problems, you can have another one in 5 minutes. I think that's also a very strong attractor to the men who go there. They experience this relationship with women that is so incredibly different than what they experience here in the West.
I think there is something to that too. Like if you do go travel overseas or you worked overseas and you had a chance to, I don't know, date women over there. I mean, I'm talking like places like he's mentioning, probably not in Germany or UK or, you know, in the EU, but maybe some places in the EU. But for the most part, if you're like, wow, this is like way different. Or some of you guys have probably dated a foreign woman that happened to come here. And you're like, gosh, this is way different. They're way more chill or something like that. Then yeah, coming back over here and then talking to, you know, the typical person here, you're going to be like, what the hell? But a lot of guys, if they don't do that, they'll never have that understanding and they won't understand so much. They'll think this is just how it is. A national movement is possible, but the society needs to be in a far worse state before anything like that would happen. Think about the environment that led to the Arab Spring. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, kind of Coach, you know, discussed that a bit of what would need to happen and, you know, a great war or something like that. Hypergamy, the top 10% of men are benefiting from the current gynocentric system. Therefore, men will never come together because the church and men in power will always fight the 80% of hurting men. It's truly not men versus women today. That is why we will not have a men's movement that creates change. It's 80% of lower class of men versus women. The leaders in church and state side with women. I mean, I think there's something to that, Michael. I think there is.
Just following up on that, if women can't change because of their female nature, why are we trying to change men?
Well, I think people can change. I think one of the worst problems for me right now with the Manosphere as it is there's so much Evo-Psych BS governing everything. They take behavioral observations that are based really on human Western behavior for the past few hundred years, not taking biology at all into account. And they point to that as evidence of that this is somehow wired genetically. And they totally refuse to recognize the cultural conditioning that comes with the romantic ethic and gynocentrism and everything else that's happened. So it's a very easy out to say, oh, it's just genetics. And a lot of men use that and say, well, there's nothing you can do then. You can't have a woman who will be accountable. You can't hold women to account. You can't win. I've seen guys say, you can never win an argument with a woman. And I'm like, what a pussy.
Man, this is a great interview. This really is a fantastic interview. I really like that point. And Peter Wright does a lot of research on that. And Evo Psych is looking at a lot of men and women's behaviors today and saying maybe that's how it always was. But there can be a flaw there because the behavior today is enabled by a lot of things. So interesting.
An absolute pussy. You could never win. Well, then you don't need a woman.
I always make the joke if women are always right, how do lesbians settle arguments?
Often violently. They're the most violent couples out there.
That's true, I think, for domestic violence. Paul was on that one.
Is the goal of the men's movement to put women back into their traditional role or to liberate men from their traditional role?
Depends on which movement.
Yeah, if it's Tradcons, then they want you back in at least the 1950s role. I mean, I'm waiting for this.
There was a dowry or a bride price.
Any day now, Tradcons.
Your dowry, it's my right.
In the Tradcon men's movement,
yeah.
Yes, it is to put women in their traditional role. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's part of the objective. But there is a fairly healthy contingent of men out there that have no interest. I'm one of them. I decided 25 years ago, if a woman couldn't show up and carry her own financial weight, I didn't want anything to do with her anyway.
There you go.
I'm not was never, well, I wouldn't say was never, but at that point in my life, when things changed for me, I wouldn't have anything to do with financial dead weight. You see this, men don't tolerate that in each other.
Man, I love that. That's the kind of nerve men need to have when they're dealing with women. Like, you really do need to have that.
Do you have the stomach?
To be able to sit there and look them in the eye and be like, you know, nothing, you bring nothing to this? Well, I'm not going to have financial dead weight, you know, into this equation. This is the traditionalism I'm worried about right here.
Dowry, it's my right.
That's the traditional role I'm talking about.
If a guy won't carry his weight financially in a group of men, the group will eventually get rid of him. And the individuals in that group will get rid of him. But women that can't carry their weight, they're seen as attractive by the tradcon crowd.
Carry her own financial weight sounds like the gold pill to me. Yeah, it certainly does. And Peter Wright has that on gynocentrism.com from the early days of the gold pill. And it's mostly phrased as a tangible material contribution to the relationship or the marriage, basically. So there needs to be a contribution. If that's on the front end,
Your dowry, it's my right.
and the man steps into provider after that, then so be it. But there needs to be some kind of deal there made.
How many men's advocates can you think of that don't lean traditional?
3.
So who's advocating for men that's not conservative, and isn't that a problem?
I am. I think Peter Wright is. I got to give a big shout out to him. I think Shah.
Oh, here we go.
I give a great shout out to Shah for his work.
Oh, man. Thank you, Paul.
But
you didn't have to. Let's hear that one more time.
Give a big shout out to him. I think Shah does.
Man.
I give a great shout out to Shah for his work. But men.
One more time for the clean audio.
I am. I think Peter Wright is. I got to give a big shout out to him. I think Shah does. I give a great shout out to Shah for his work. But men who want women that are
good.
actual responsible adults and who won't settle for anything else are maybe 3 to 5% of the manosphere. Most of the guys there still have this idea that if I just become the most fit, protective provider, that will guarantee me a woman who won't divorce rape me.
Man, I am just grateful that Paul is laying it out like this. Like, this is very inspiring. And it's just, you know, it's just, I don't even know what to say. I'm just grateful for that. But I really believe in that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is a different way forward for men, you know. If your woman makes more money than you do, at least she won't be a financial dead weight. Right now, that works for me. Yeah, and I've met people where this is working for. And again, we have the historical basis to bring this up. Like, when people come for the challenge on this, I have the documents. Not to sound like Alex Jones, but I really do, you know. Hey, that's badass. Thank you, Wakefophobic. Salute. Heck yeah. I know. Salute. Salute. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I didn't make it this far into the video before I got to work. Oh, yeah. Well, we're all enjoying it together. Thanks, Shah, from all of us. Now, thank you, man. I appreciate y'all, man, honestly. Just makes me want to make more stuff for everybody, you know. Crap, I meant to salute Paul. No, absolutely. Salute to Paul. I wish Paul called the BS going on in these men's spaces long time ago. Yeah, I mean, Paul is definitely a voice that we need. Quite literally a voice for men. But yeah, man, that's really cool. Honestly.
Suggest you guys talk to Steven Crowder about that.
Why didn't conservatives fight back harder against early feminism, but do now?
I don't think conservatives are fighting feminism. I think they're paying lip service to fighting feminism.
That's a good point. And The only reason they're saying anything now is because so many men are checking out and they're noticing. So they're still not fighting it, but they're just trying to get men's attention, I guess, and get them back in. Typically through two ways. It's either appealing to the hero archetype or it's through shaming the men's masculinity. Those are like two sides of the same coin to get you to... unfortunately, the coin is not gold.
Oh, dowry, it's my right.
It's more just like a coin made out of nothing. But you know what I'm saying.
Turn on Fox News and you hear the women across the board, most of them will tell you that they're feminist. And when it boils down to it, they have feminist priorities. I mean, conservatives want to fight the left, and they recognize that feminism comes from Marxist philosophy. They get all that. But when's the last time you heard a conservative talk about repealing the 19th or reforming divorce laws? Now, there's a big one right there.
Yeah, the reform on the divorce laws, just like every now and then they might say something about no-fault divorce, but that's usually spurred on because the red pill stuff will make the discussion. Then they'll come in and try to say something. I always remember that sort of cigar roundtable that the Daily Wire had. That's back when Candace Owens was with them, and I think Jordan Peterson was there, and Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, and who was that guy? Jeremy Boring was there, and he was just like, oh yeah, let's invest some money into a think tank so we can really start looking at that. And that was like 3 years ago at this point. 3 years ago they said that. They haven't done anything. Just nothing changed. Nothing changed, nothing changed. Yeah, Steven Crowder was that dude that was talking crap about the MRA. And when he had to deal with the divorce, his tune changed. Yeah. Warlord, it will be interesting if Steven becomes red-pilled or keep gynocentric. Time will tell.
The divorce laws, the family courts are as corrupt as the day is long. They're savagely ruining the lives of men, women, and children. And conservatives who are supposedly anti-feminist, and the courts are feminist institutions, they're populated by feminists. The Friends of the Court, all kinds of the other ancillary stuff are all feminist run. And you won't hear conservatives talk about that at all. So,
and that's true. I don't know if you guys saw my discussion with the Male Space and Dr. Stephen Baskerville, but I brought up a budget hearing for child support in Congress, and it's like I think it was 4 or 5 people, but there was only one guy, and the rest were women. And it's like they have the positions in all of these institutions. So it's like they just continue to fight for what they want, basically. Heroes Ford says, I think there is usefulness to the hero's journey. It is a matter of what the final objective is. I find that following a transcendent mission is much more important than the TradCon vision for women. I agree with you. I mean, the hero archetype is part of our inbuilt psychology, if you want to say that. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think it can be co-opted and hijacked by these other kind of people to try to get you on their mission, instead of what maybe you should be doing, whether that's your mission, with God or, however that is. But it's them sort of co-opting that archetype within men and kind of playing them like a musical instrument, so to speak. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying here. I have been expelled from 7 churches since Red Pilled and speaking about men's issues in the church. I don't know why. Isn't 7 something mentioned in Revelations? Maybe I'm getting my number symbolism wrong there. Didn't Daily Wire duck an interview with BB? Dang it, who's BB again? Why is that not coming to mind? Daily Wire. Better Bachelor? I actually vaguely recall that. He was supposed to be interviewed by Daily Wire, but this was years ago, I think. And then they basically cold-shouldered him, I think. I think that actually did happen. That did happen. Wonder what made Crowder change his mind. That's a good one, Klaus. Oh man, changed my mind indeed. Yeah. 7 churches. Well, I had a dust up at church about patriarchy with the more egalitarian guy. But I had my stuff together and folks have my back now on these things. Well, that's good. That's good. You got some positivity there, or at least some support. I will attend a church sometimes, but I don't talk to many people. And I certainly don't talk about things with them outside of very narrow topics. I refuse to join any too. Better Bachelor. Yeah, they sidelined him after he won. Okay, yeah, because I remember that. There was a sideline there.
So it's like, are they really? I mean, I think they're mocking feminists for some clicks. But in their actual practice, no, they're feminist.
Why has religion been injected into the men's movement, and what's the connection?
That's another great question. I would have to say I think a lot of it is because the values of, or the values of valuing men, of recognizing men's humanity, sometimes recognizing their vulnerability, they don't have the internal mechanism to fight that fight. So they lean on religion to do it for them. But again, if you go into the modern church, it's as gynocentric as it can be. All of them, I know, with all respect, I've got some great Catholic friends. I hear guys say, oh, the Catholic Church is, yes, it is. Absolutely. I have talked to many Catholic men whose wife came in, shed a few tears to the congregation, said he was a bad guy, and all of them turned on him. This is in
I thought he was going to say shed a few tears and, became a born-again virgin or something, but this is another aspect here. That's unfortunate, how the whole sort of, I guess your community, you could say, turns on you because of her accusation, basically.
Catholic Church, including the clergy. So it's
and the leadership.
Like, yeah, you can talk about that stuff all day long, but in practice, and I see guys when they suffer the consequences of this stuff. So I see it all the time. They are not conservative. They are feminist. Churches are feminist. Government's feminist. Everything in. And these guys, these traditional conservatives that are preaching against feminists, they're feminists too.
Yeah, and most certainly gynocentric.
Why do men get so much resistance from other men when talking about men's rights?
Okay, here we go.
It goes back to the brainwashing. Talking about men's rights jeopardizes, puts at risk your ability to have sex.
Men sabotaging other men in order to get laid.
So men get frightened when they hear the truth being spoken, the truth that will upset women, and it does upset women, and it should upset them. I mean, what's being pointed out by at least the truth-speaking elements of the red pill community is very upsetting, and women don't want to hear it. So consequently, men don't want to hear it.
Gosh, that's a great point. I mean, and I know, I've heard similar things in the past, but the way Paul lays it out makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but this comes back to mating strategy, gynocentrism every time.
Gosh. Luke says, I can verify that both the Catholic churches and the Orthodox churches are gynocentric to the nth degree, despite their saying they are patriarchal. Michael says, churches and government is feminists, or are feminists. Paul Elam is absolutely right. I got nothing other than what I know. I'm a nobody, so I don't give them authority over me, nor do I give them of myself to be used. Men throwing each other under the bus for female approval. Gotta love simps. Yep. Goes back to that. Paul's been pretty, even throughout this interview, he's probably mentioned that a few times now.
Why do tradcons say the sexes are different to support their narrative, while feminists say the sexes are the same to support their narrative?
Because neither of those narratives matter as long as you're putting women first. It's a good answer. It's the same thing in a different skin. Again, I don't think there is a hair's difference between a modern tradcon and a feminist. It's still women first, women only. It's all about the woman. And as long as you maintain that narrative, you can take shots at each other, but it's never going to be a real argument.
That's the gynocentrism right there. Reminds me of that meme where it's like an iceberg and like a little bit of the iceberg is on top of the water and it says feminism. And then the big part of the iceberg below it says gynocentrism.
They're both gynocentric.
Yes.
There we go. Yes.
If feminism disappeared tomorrow, which male problems would still exist, if any, and why?
All of them. If
gynocentrism
just disappeared, maybe some things would get a little better, maybe. But again, feminism is just one offshoot of gynocentrism.
Yep, right there. Well, you know, that might give us another poll question. Would you rather deal with a overtly feminist woman or a covert gynocentric kind of like woman? Like, you know, it's like the tradcon gynocentric sort of wife, so to speak. The sort of, you know, Sarah Stock, I guess. I can't, you know, just to pull out a name there. Versus a overtly feminist woman. Like, which one would you rather be married or have to get divorced from? I got to figure out how to formulate this question. Which kind of woman would you rather have to deal with? All right, let's just put it that way. Deal with, question mark. And then you can put tradcon gynocentrist. When I say deal with, you know, I mean, gosh, define deal with. I was hoping to have that as an umbrella term, but it's like, would you rather, if you had to go through or get married to one of them, I guess. I'll put Sarah Stock just as an example there. And then I'll just put overt feminist. Or I'll just put proud feminist sounds so annoying. I would almost have to go for the Sarah Stock. Listen, man, my reasoning was that, like, you know, it's better to like deal with the enemy that's outright about being your enemy versus the one that's like lying about it and pretending not to be your enemy. But then when I think about it, I actually don't know which one to choose here. So I still kind of lean towards the one that, you know, at least you know where they stand versus the one that, you know, pretends like they're a good traditional wife. Yeah, maybe I didn't put that question the best way. Sarah Stock poisons the well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, just putting her, maybe I shouldn't have put her name there because it definitely biases the question. I see what you're saying, Heroes Forward, man. I may have had to do that. The answer is not. Okay, you're right. The answer is neither. That's the MGTOW way. But I just meant, like, if you had to. If you absolutely... This is a big what-if question, and I'm not a fan of what-if questions, but I'm just trying to have some fun. It would need to at least 2 generations to really change men, and I'm including myself here, are way too brainwashed and would not use this power. Yeah, I mean, I think that would agree with what Paul's saying here. Feminists are violent. They don't argue and reason from logic. They respond on emotion. That's all. That's a good point. Sarah Stock poisons the well so hard. Probably the proud feminist, because there will be no surprises. That was my reasoning when I wrote the question. That's how I was thinking about it. Like, well, at least you know, versus getting backstabbed later on, you know. I'm sorry, I didn't want to say this out loud, but I keep thinking of that picture of them with the Pope, you know? And it's like that, you know, could have been like the proudest moment for that guy. It's like, man, me and my wife and the Pope and all that. And then, like, the way it turned out, it's like, I think it would be hard to look at that photo again for that guy. I would go proud feminist. I would be repelled right away and would not have to deal with the bait and switch. Yeah, see, that's the biggest thing, is the bait and switch. At least with the proud feminist, like, there isn't... Well, there might be a little bait and switch where suddenly they just want you to pay for everything, I guess. I don't know. When I think of Coach's marriage wheel, typically it's like the wife becomes a feminist after the investment phase. So the feminism just comes out. So it's like if they're overt feminists from the beginning, then the bait and switch isn't there of like becoming a feminist later. So, oh yeah, Klaus is tracking. They are both feminists. One is pretending and the other isn't. So I would go with yeah, that was my logic there. And I know this is kind of an unfair question because it's like, yeah, Luke is right. The correct answer is neither, but just for the sake of the fun of the question. Don't forget, men are in charge today. It's the men due to hypergamy love and benefit from the gynocentric lifestyle. They sleep with tons of women, tons of girls, and have lots of money and power. Yeah, that small minority of guys. Covert feminists fight the same way when it comes down to it as regular feminists. Had Gabe Huddleston get on my case about when I take off the kid gloves when contending with the women of X. I'll have to look for that. I must have missed that. That sounds like an X back and forth, maybe. I literally watched my ex-wife's friend go from trad wife to overt feminist due to going back to school for a degree. Wow. They almost always change. Yeah, that's what it, that's like fundamental to Coach's marriage wheel. I will say probably the opposite will happen too. Well, they'll go to, man, I was talking to a gentleman earlier and he's going through a divorce. It's almost finally wrapped up. This has been ongoing for 3 years now. I've been watching this and, you know, trying to support him the way through. But he was just telling me that like this soon to be ex-wife of his who did so much messed up stuff, she came back and was just like, oh, I'm dealing with this and that. And can I get some money like in the thousands of dollars? And it's just like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I'm having a hard time, and ex-husband, can you give me some money? It's like, okay, here we go. Unfortunate stuff, but I'm glad for him because it's finally starting to wrap up for him. So it's been tough, but yeah, I hear that, Luke. I can see. Look at President Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Okay, so I'll close the poll in a second here. I just thought we'd have some fun.
And you remove that, you still have the underlying gynocentrism. You're still going to have conservative judges. I can't tell you how many guys I've talked to from Texas, which is notoriously bad in family courts. Conservative judges absolutely raking them over the coals, destroying their finances, destroying the relationship with their children in order to please the woman. You get rid of feminists, and those guys will still be doing that.
Is gynocentrism purely cultural, biological, or evolutionary?
That's interesting. I like that. I think, you know, just my discussions with Peter Wright and stuff. I forgot what the third thing he said here, but cultural is really going to be it. Let me just
purely.
Those guys will still be doing that.
Is gynocentrism purely cultural, biological, or evolutionary?
I guess evolutionary and biological are kind of the same thing. So I would say, yeah, cultural.
I think it's cultural. For the human race has been here, as far as we know, for a couple of 100,000 years.
Yeah, if you're going to look at it from the evolutionary perspective, gynocentrism is more recent as far as romantic chivalry and, you know, courtly love go.
The idea of gynocentrism, the practice of it, wasn't even introduced into human society until about 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And it only started really getting steam a couple of 100 years ago.
Yep. So that presupposes a more cultural thing there. I'm just going to end the poll. It's taking a while to load. Believe it or not, the conservative, more trad states are geometrically worse than liberal states, usually for men in family court. Yeah, Paul kind of mentioned that to me a little bit because he was just like, you know, if you get a gynocentric judge, they'll really try to get you. That's in the panel interview a little bit. So, not the panel interview. I'm sorry, the panel discussion.
It took a long time. But now the biodeterminists look at that and say, see, gynocentrism, things have always been that way. No, they haven't. They haven't been that way at all. Men
That's where the history of the dowry comes in.
used to get married with the goal being their standing in the community, their contributions to the standing. Men used to get married with the goal being their standing in the community, their contributions to the society around them, having children. That was what was important about marriage. And women were a part of that, but they weren't the whole game. And just over the last couple of 100 years, women have become the whole game. Men find a sense of emotional completion if they find a woman.
This is a great interview. Fantastic.
Loves them. None of this other stuff plays into it.
Why can women collectively come together to smash the patriarchy while men must individually self-improve to escape the gynocentric matrix?
Good questions from John. Good questions from John.
There was a dowry or a bride price.
Because that's reality. If men want to escape the gynocentric matrix, if they truly want to, they do have to improve themselves. Women come together to smash the patriarchy. They come together to protect criminal illegals that are in the country. They come together to abort babies. Women come together over anything that pleases them at the moment. If men want to break free of that, they do have to change their thinking. They have to change their attitude about themselves. They have to change their attitude about women.
Does male disposability still make sense in a modern society?
I think so, in some ways. But I don't know if I would frame it exactly as male disposability.
Klaus says, and gynocentrism is definitely not evolutionary. To the contrary, it is killing the birth rate. That's a good point right there. I like that. That's interesting. I mean, I don't like that the birth rates get killed. I just mean that's an interesting implication of that, which kind of goes against this evolutionary sort of understanding. Good point.
We still have 99% combat troops are men for a reason. Women are a distraction in that way. They get in the way and ultimately cost more men's lives. So one way of looking at keeping certain professions, certain combat-ready units all male is for the fact that we don't want them to be disposable. We want them to operate with efficiency.
Does feminism reduce or increase gynocentrism?
Feminism reduce or increase gynocentrism? I think increase.
I think it's an offshoot of it. It's an expression of it, and it certainly gave it political muscle that it didn't have before. It did have political muscle, but the degree of it from feminism has enhanced that a lot. So I wouldn't say it actually enhanced gynocentrism. I think it just become another expression of it.
That's an interesting perspective. So versus increasing it, it's become another perspective of it. It kind of makes me think of like individual chivalry expectations versus institutionalized chivalry, where feminists were successful in institutionalizing chivalry into laws, and romantic chivalry, but in a way where women are elevated over men.
Does the manosphere psychologically benefit from believing in gynocentrism?
Does the manosphere psychologically benefit from believing in gynocentrism?
Does the manosphere psychologically benefit from believing in gynocentrism?
I think individual men can certainly benefit. When I see what the average Manospherean does with gynocentrism, though, it's hard to imagine it benefiting anybody, because what most of the Manosphere does with gynocentrism is practice it. They're not combating it.
Why are there fathers' rights groups who don't fight for other men's issues? Doesn't everything that...
Yeah, and the female doesn't even have to do anything. Yeah, that gets back into the question of duties there.
Affects men who don't fight for other men's issues. Why are there fathers' rights groups who don't fight for other men's issues? Doesn't everything that affects men's rights also affect fathers' rights?
Sure. But I think what you get is fathers' rights groups are comprised of men who have been divorce raped, who have been through hell in family courts. And
yeah, and a lot of them are probably just, they want to see their children. So it's like all these other issues kind of just maybe fall by the wayside because they're so concerned with wanting to see their children and being in their lives.
They want to fight for those rights. But the moment they get confronted with the fact that to really fight for that stuff, you're going to have to go after gynocentrism, they still want to attract women. They still want to have that image with them. And so, and I've talked to several of those groups. I talked to a group in Texas, and I've talked to other groups that were fathers' rights groups. And I got a lot of stuff like, well, we want to choose our battles carefully. And it's like, in other words, you really don't want to do the battle. You want your kid back, and I get that. Believe me, I do. But these guys, for the most part, they're not interested in fighting the core of the problem, and they will fight tooth and nail to keep from recognizing it in most cases.
When discussing MGTOW versus men's rights, would going MGTOW actually change anything if 80% of men are already invisible to women?
It would.
Interesting. I think it changes stuff because that's what gets the government to pay attention and all that. When men walk away and they're like, oh, why are men walking away and not paying into the system? At least not as much as they were. Let's hear the question again in case I misheard it.
In most cases.
When discussing MGTOW versus men's rights, would going MGTOW actually change anything if 80% of men are already invisible to women?
It would change the right things, I think. I'm a big supporter of MGTOW.
Shout out to the MGTOWs out there, MGTOW folk.
I think that is, these are actually men who are doing something about the problem. They're withdrawing and attending to their own lives, which is what men mostly refuse to do. We're wired most of the time like hunting women and thinking about how to attract them and how do we acquire one, how do we keep her. That's where you get the dating coaches and all this other stuff. The MGTOW are just saying, I'm done. See you later. I'm going to go take care of my own life. And I think a lot of those guys will come back to women at some point, to dating or to even long-term relationships, but they're not going to be the same guy they were before.
I like that. I like that because, you know, I don't think of MGTOW and think, oh, they'll never have any relations with women. But Paul, I like the way Paul's describing it. It's just like they really, I guess you could say, get rid of the gynocentrism within themselves, or they just understand who they are and what their needs are and what they want. And then they come back in and deal with it from that way. MGTOW movement probably taught. MGTOW has financial impact too. Government hates it. Exactly. Scott Galloway's trying to solve that problem. MGTOW will, for the government, MGTOW will force changes by economic reasons. Like I said before, work less, spend less. Exactly. MGTOW movement has probably taught Dontavius everything he knows.
You gotta stay gaming,
Exactly.
Don't focus on no girls. Just stay gaming.
Oh, that's the best. Exactly. Oh, man.
That's important.
See, when you go MGTOW, you come back like this.
And there's nothing more important than marrying a wealthy woman. As you get older, I'm going to teach you tricks on how to find a dumb lady that
there you go.
loves just tanning and comes from a family full of perhaps oil money. And then you can be a spoken for, well taken care of trophy husband.
All right.
Why would tradcons, red pillars, and feminists all feel so threatened by MGTOW if it didn't have any effect?
There we go. Yeah, see, that's the question I want to hear.
Could it be because they all benefit from exploiting male loneliness?
Yep, exactly. So when you can't exploit and, you know, take the juice out of men, you know, or whatever, get the money, then it's just like, oh, what happened?
I think that's an astute observation. They do benefit from exploiting male loneliness, only they've overdone it. We hear a lot of talk these days about a male loneliness crisis. I talk to MGTOW guys all the time. They're not lonely, not even close. They're having a blast with their lives. I think that's what upsets the tradcons and the feminists and a lot of the red pillars, is that MGTOW are out there actually doing this deal and living fulfilling lives. They may or may not come to the world of women again at some point, but they're not being controlled by anybody.
I like that. I like that, man. Shout out to the MGTOW.
It's a very good point. MGTOW upsets these people because they're actually taking care of themselves. And tradcons don't want men to take care of themselves. Feminists don't want men to take care of themselves. And most of the red pill community is still focused on getting women.
You know, and this kind of goes back to the heroes, the hero archetype that Heroes Forge kind of we were discussing a little earlier. It's like MGTOW is living out the hero archetype for their own mission, or, you know, what they believe in. And everybody else hates it because they can't hijack the hero archetype inside the MGTOW man in order to get them to do what they want to do, what they want them to do for them. Since it's hard to prove, like in family court, the go-to is to believe all women. You are a champion for protecting women, but toxic masculinity if you side with the man, even if right, hero or zero. I can't be fully on board with MGTOW because the ruling elites benefit from men and women being divided and they want population control. Interesting perspective. She's got huge tracts of land. Exactly. Comes from a family of cattle ranchers. There is no benefit for siding with the man, only suspicion. And MGTOW will force women to change too. My woman most certainly would love to find a version of me hustling with a lot of more money, but she realized chances for that are slim, so she settled. Well, shout out to her, man. Shout out to her. Bingo. Paul represents. Absolutely. Absolutely. Even in the MGTOW community, you get dudes trying to own the thing, but that is contrary to the whole ethos of own way. Yeah, that's a good point there, Luke.
I consider it men's liberation on an individual level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On an individual level that's actually now having a society-wide impact. Again, what some people frame as a loneliness epidemic, I call an epidemic of withdrawal.
How do you respond to people who think that male loneliness is just natural selection?
I don't buy it. There have been scores of single men, bachelors, who have lived incredible, fulfilling lives throughout history. I think this is sour grapes talking. The men walked away, excuse me, and the feminists and the tradcons said, we're just going to shame you on the way out because we can't handle the fact that you're doing the right thing.
Why has the Red Pill movement replaced most of the published veteran authors and intellectuals for a bunch of entertainers and shock jocks?
I wonder what Paul's...
Because, and again, I'm going to beat the dead horse a little more, because 95+% of men don't give a damn about anything except women. And
that's where the gynocentrism, you know, comes in.
So that's what you're going to get from that. There's still the 5% that's still consuming content from the OG guys, and I still hear from people all the time. But most men out there there's that expression that most red pill guys are one blowjob away from being blue pill, and it's true. So that 95%. You can sell them bullshit in a can, and it'll sell just fine as long as
bullshit in a can.
It doesn't interrupt the idea of getting laid.
Why is it always the tradcons or so-called high-value men who represent the men's movement? Why is the average man never given a seat at the table when they are the ones who are the most affected by all of this?
Good question.
I would challenge the premise of that. Tradcons don't represent anything except clickbait. They're not a movement.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. They're not trying to change anything.
There is,
I mean, other than maybe going to some fantasy 1950s way of living, which is kind of not feasible for a lot of people. When, you know, he mentions average men in the question, probably both people would have to work, you know, husband and wife.
you know, churches are dying. People are leaving in droves, and often for good reason. Their values are becoming archaic, and we recognize them a lot as just plain self-destructive, suicidal values. In a lot of ways, it's just a setup to ruin your life. They're not a movement, and they're not representing much of anybody other than themselves. They make interesting content in far as let's get some feminists in here and
I think shock jock is a good way to describe it.
throw insults at each other for 30 minutes and
Yeah.
let's get a couple of prostitutes and do the same thing. That's not a movement. That's entertainment, and it shouldn't be confused with a movement or with activism.
Yeah, I think it's a great answer. They tradcon con men just shame, just like the Suki, because they can't control us and they hate it. Absolutely.
Following up on that point, why is it that a men's advocacy movement, Red Pill, has to be entertaining to gain support, but a woman's advocacy movement, feminism, didn't?
Well, I think it's the gender dynamics at play here. You'll never have a movement. I don't believe this. I'll go to my grave at least believing that you will never have a movement society-wide that has a huge impact that's like MGTOW. It's just
wow. That's I like that he just outright said that, because we kind of mention that all the time, right? Like MGTOW is the only one that seems to have any impact or get anybody's attention. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
not going to happen because of a movement, grave at least, believing that you will never have a movement society-wide that has a huge impact that's like MGTOW. It's just not going to happen because Western men live in a desperation mindset all the time, thinking they're incomplete without a woman, and that whatever woman they get, they think, could I have done a little better? Could I have found somebody a little?
See, that's the romantic ethos. And it's interesting here because it's almost like the way Paul presents it is the whole underlying factor of MGTOW is about getting away from this romantic ethos and shedding that. If you're going somewhere and you're not getting rid of the romantic ethos, then maybe you're missing a big part of the MGTOW understanding there. That's a bold statement there. Certainly.
A little more attractive, a little hotter. That's their mentality. And these are still guys that want families and would like successful marriages, but their values for creating families and successful marriages undermine them every step of the way. And the tradcons are the worst about reinforcing that thinking.
Do you think it could be because we have
tradcons really are
more empathy for women than we do for men?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think so. You know, on a societal level, I think most men, that would be their experience. The power of MGTOW is that guys can just silently step away from the plantation, and the infrastructure of society is put under pressure in a huge way. Yeah, I mean, because it's like they're losing their tax base, so to speak. You know, church is all about protecting the poor and needy. Church is for protecting women from abusive men. Legislators need the vote of the church and woman. Running to prevent male abuse gets them both.
We always have.
The empathy gap, obviously, yes. Why has the men's movement become all about money and fame and entertainment? Doesn't this differentiate between the legitimate men's movement and the imposters?
Yeah, it's become that because there's money in it. Clickbait is a income revenue. I mean, it's a revenue generator, and you generate more clicks with conflict, without thoughtful discussion, without really analyzing what's going on in the lives of men. It's why you have all these tradcons out there that cut off half the material They will not talk about gynocentrism in any meaningful way or any of the things that really impact the lives of men. It's just, here's what a man is. Now go do that.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, coming to Michael's point a little bit here, he's talking about the church and legislators, but it's also, you know, when it comes to this business of social media, Daily Wire needs the clicks of women just as much as men, so they want to keep as many people there as possible to be successful in their engagement endeavor.
And if you get destroyed in the process, you probably did something wrong.
Warlord says, to be honest, these tradcons are more insufferable than radical feminists. Yeah, that's what I kind of was getting at with that last poll question. They are. They really are sometimes. Maybe even most of the time, but yeah. Ayn Rand, Luke says, Ayn Rand supposedly said that the conservatives were more dangerous than the liberals because they are sly, double-talking backstabbers, while liberals tell you outright what they'll do. I could see that. I mean, yeah, maybe she did say that. Thanks, Shah. No worries. No worries. Thank you. Shout out to the silver pill there, Michael. The Heroes Forge says, especially with their insufferable white knighting, it is disgraceful. It is also as if there is no self-awareness of what the second and third order effects of what they're doing. That's a great point. It does kind of seem like that. It's like, wow. But then it's like, are they really not self-aware? I mean, I guess giving them the benefit of the doubt, they're not self-aware. But if they are self-aware and they're doing this, then that's just, you know, horrible. I would call the tradcons more like intellectually disingenuous. Yeah. Okay.
And I would say, yeah, they followed your advice. That's what they did wrong.
I think it's also why we see a lot of this blood sport debating and just,
Absolutely.
you know, posturing, things like that. Red Pill says the world is gynocentric. Feminists say the world is androcentric. Is there some way to come to a consensus and restore balance?
It's a good question.
The world is gynocentric.
Where are men overburdened and where are women disadvantaged?
Some of the guys will hate this too. Where are men overburdened? Where they choose to be. One of the things that I see that I don't like, and this is a really important point, is that feminism runs on a lack of accountability. I'm a victim in everything. That will.
Some red pillars, you know, will kind of put that out that women aren't accountable, or really it's just not in their nature to. I like this idea, though, that Paul's putting out about the men who are choosing what burdens to put on themselves. There's kind of two strains. Some people might say, well, you know, men can't escape it fully and they're burdened by society because of the laws and stuff, which I get. But I do like Paul's message because personally, I just want to lean more towards that because it is more hopeful. But, you know, there are a lot of burdens you can maybe choose not to take upon yourself in certain ways. And I think that's what MGTOW, you know, kind of gets at there.
Will never work for men. Is that feminism runs on a lack of accountability. I'm a victim in everything. That will never work for men. We live by our choices in life. And I think that if we want to talk about some sort of idea of true masculinity, that is found in that, in the accountability. Every guy that ended up in a bad marriage, he did it with a woman he chose to be with and they chose to breed with. He made decisions about dating and how to form relationships. And the last thing men need is a movement telling them that they're not responsible for that.
There's a little bit of a discussion in the panel group discussion about victims and what that means. So that's something to look forward to also. Ayn Rand likely said it more eloquently than I did, though. She was one of the few women I would respect. Heroes Ford says he is absolutely right. Men often fail to realize most of their burden is self-inflicted. I find the same is the case with women when they complain about mental load. Yeah, I think a lot of that is the gynocentric conditioning, and there is a societal-wide gaslighting. So, you know, men do choose that. It's heavily influenced by that gynocentrism. Tradcons and church leaders are the top 10 percenters. They don't have problems with women like we do. They are married and loved by the community and by other women. Wife will love their husband when loved by other women. Okay, moving.
Why can't we remove gender-specific obligations on both sides?
Well, because women want gender-specific privilege and men want to give women what they want. So that puts a little roadblock in that idea.
And finally, where would you like to see the men's movement in 5 years? Where do you think things are headed?
That's an interesting question.
This is going to be a selfish answer. In 5 years, I would like to still be alive, still free, still in a stable home with none of this garbage. I would like that for as many men as possible. But I have to say, in coming from my old man perspective here, that I'm not hopeful for getting there with a lot of men. I'm very hopeful that a small percentage of men who can embrace the idea that they actually are worth something, that they actually do have needs and wants in life that are more important than pleasing women, those guys, I think, can be living the dream. They absolutely can. They can be more or less immune from the problems. Don't get legally married. That stuff is just out the window. That small percentage, that's why I keep working at this. That small percentage of guys can win in the end.
That's a hopeful message. I don't want to call it like black pilled or anything, but it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. I also see that there is a little bit of similarities, at least with Coach Greg Adams. He's more recently about the boss up stuff. I don't think this is more about, maybe it's a little bit boss up, but it's more around a small percentage of men. It's kind of a tough thing, I guess, to accept, especially when it comes to men wanting a collective movement or some kind of mass awakening like that. But it seems like folks who've been in the space for a long time maybe see it differently, and it might be because of their experiences in dealing with men one-on-one.
Those guys, not going to happen. They're going to end up being the guys that come to me after 20 years of marriage. They haven't even talked to their wives.
See, that's what I mean, because Paul has so much experience working with men one-on-one that maybe that's what's really influenced him to come to these conclusions.
5 years, much less had sex. They're living lives of quiet desperation, and they have no idea how they got there.
Well, Paul, it was truly an honor to meet you. I'm eternally grateful for this opportunity, and you're a huge source of inspiration in my work, and you inspire many other people. And I would just like to ask, is there any final thoughts you'd like to say? Or?
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm a big fan of yours. I love what you're doing. The cogent, pointed questions to the public, watching them fumble for answers.
That's what it's complicated
because you're asking
best.
The right question. It's not only entertaining, it's worthy. It's teaching us about the way most people think. So I'm a big fan of that. So all I have to say to add to this is I hope you keep doing what you're doing, because I appreciate it a great deal.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Paul.
Wow, that is so cool, man. What a sweet video. What a sweet video, man. Great interview. Probably, I've seen some good amount of Paul interviews, but I think this is one of the best. Yeah, cool stuff, man. 45 minutes kind of flew by. Special thanks to Caesar Quintana. Shout out to Caesar. Yeah, we don't have Caesar in the chat today, but Caesar's usually here. And honestly, Caesar made a lot of this happen. He made a lot of this happen for us. So, man, big shout out to him. He really got all of us together. Double shout out to Caesar. Double shout out to Caesar. Man, that was too good. That was too good. This video definitely needs more views. Let's just see what the comments say real quick. And then the red pill is knowing and accepting reality. Simple as that. Dude, your questions are always freaking awesome. Don't stop making videos, please. Heck yeah. Paul is great. The GOAT, in my opinion. Paul Elam is a legend. He has always had men's interest at the front of all the trends over time. Never confrontational, just the truth. Like Morpheus, he only offers the truth, nothing more. Man, hearing that line makes me want to watch The Matrix again. Do I got that on DVD? I think I do. I've been MGTOW for over 25 years. The women and system has been gynocentric my whole life. It's not worth pursuing a relationship in this environment. I have my children and peace. I have women friends and none of them are what I want in a relationship. Everything in today's world is just amplified by social media that existed in my youth. Shout out to him, man. Tall Living Small. That's a cool username. He's got a picture of some kind of SUV pulling a giant trailer. I think that's what that is. Nice, man. The end was very sweet. Both of you are fantastic. Absolutely. Men guarding their own well-being. My respects goes out to Barbar. I remember Barbar and all of his analyses on the subject. A true king. Absolutely brilliant video. Many thanks for this interview. I definitely side way more with Paul Elam. Rollo has become a sellout and a purple pillar. Awesome video. Paul was brilliant. Superb advice. Absolutely. I do agree with a lot of this. I hate the couching grifters. The couching. Yes, there are plenty of men that still want to have relationships with families. But what is even the point of doing that when women are still societally encouraged to be bad partners? And there really does need to be more focus on pointing out misandry. I watch a lot of movies, and modern movies and TV are just dripping with it. Yeah, that's why I watch a lot of older stuff myself. Heavily anti-male, pro-women cheating, pro-cuckoldry, anti-father, almost no positive depictions of heterosexual relationships, usually because of the man. That is why the manosphere has largely been dead the past few years. Shout out to Julius. And most of this crap has happened in the last 60 years, my lifetime. Great video. Paul answers all of complicated, tough questions really well. I thought he did too. I thought he answered the questions very well. Like he was kind of knocking those out of the park, honestly. Great questioning and exceptional responses. Funny how at a minute 30, the intro mentions domestic violence because of absolute truth in this. I'll reshare a post I made over in Louis Rossman. Yeah, we're probably not. Gentlemen, I'd probably recommend going back here and reading this on your own time. It's probably well worth the read. I'm going to give it a thumbs up anyways for awareness. I'll come back to that. Top Shelf collab. Thanks, gents. Thank you, Paul. You've helped so many guys over the years, probably helped save thousands of men from this poisonous culture and system. Can't thank you enough. Absolutely. Good stuff there, man. That was just freaking awesome. I know I probably missed some chats. This is Shah. By the way, I found your channel because of Base FCZ. Shout out to both of you guys. Thanks, man. Yeah, I really appreciate him. I got to follow up with him and do a collab with him. We talked about that in the past, and we got to make that happen. Yeah, so, man, that was a fun interview. I'll probably leave it at that tonight and just make it easy for the folks. We'll play some music here in a second and run out with it. Paul has now fallen under the old wise man. He definitely is more laid back and gets better and better every interview in the past few years. Absolutely, man. Shout out to Paul. That was a great interview. Really, it was. With the state of these men's spaces regressing, I hate to admit that these spaces are still a necessary evil. I certainly think it's necessary too. I mean, so long as the culture is gynocentric and if this stuff isn't moving in another direction, then definitely the space will be needed. Will it be comprised of the same stuff? No, it'll probably change as things go on, but I agree with you. I think the spaces will be here. Yeah, really good seeing him in the old Wizard of Wisdom role. Yeah. Yeah, the wise old man. That's another archetype that's mentioned here in Joseph Campbell's work, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And I don't know if I can pull it that fast, but here it is. Chapter 1, The Departure, The Call to Adventure. Where's the meeting with the old man? Maybe I missed it. It's in here somewhere. That's part of the hero's journey, you know. I think it's around Call to Adventure or something. Refusal to call supernatural aid, the crossing of the first threshold. Well, maybe I need to reread this book. Absolutely, though. Always a pleasure to hear from the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Very much so. Yeah, that was a fantastic interview. Klaus, I'm definitely going to send... Klaus, I'm going to private message you right now so I don't forget. On Yield Discord. Ah, dang it. I don't know if I've ever private messaged Klaus. Dang it. I should look into this after. Let me see. Klaus. Ah, dang it. I'm going to have to add Klaus's friend. Klaus, I'm going to follow up with you later, man. I'm sorry. Let's get some music going on here and we'll quietly see ourselves out. Guys, yeah, I know, I wasn't here for the last 2 weeks. But, I think I got, this collab's going to get posted soon. Sometime this coming week, I'm going to get that collab posted for us. And it's a good hour and 30 minutes of Matt Cross, Paul Elam, John from It's Complicated, and myself having a fun discussion. And I think you guys are really, really going to like it. So, I think you guys are just really going to appreciate it. Just put it in content sharing. Okay. We'll do that. We'll do that. But yeah, this was a freaking good one, man. We had fun today. And I'm going to work on getting after I get the panel interview posted, I'm going to work on getting some shorter videos made. And we'll be back to our regular streaming programming. I started at 8 p.m. today because we lost the hour. I will probably go back to 7 o'clock because I know some of the folks are on East Coast time. So something to consider. I know it's really early for Klaus. I wish I could find a time that worked for everybody. You know what I mean? We had some fun today, man. Got a shout out from Paul Elam. Mentioned the dowry. Too good. Need new gold pill. Oh, crap. I forgot to tell you guys. Paul Elam specifically requested a song. This will be one for the folks in the AI content channel. But Paul Elam's suggestion for a song was this. Where is it at? Oh, gosh. Sorry. I wrote all this down. Paul Elam said, "How much do I have to shit on you to make you love me?" And he wants it to be a country music song. One for the AI folks. So that's from Paul. And because we were sitting around joking, smoking cigars, and we were talking about, how like the women goes after the bad boy and how that's a lot of the kind of intersexual dynamic discussions and what people are like, why does she go after that guy that treats her badly or whatever? And Paul just kind of jokingly came up with a country music song that's called "How Much Do I Have to Shit on You to Make You Love Me?" So if anybody wants to take that on as a song request, I would love to personally send that over to Paul with your name on it. And it like a country music. But Luke, by the way, I showed him Deadbeat Woman and some of the other AI songs, but he was loving it, man. So I told him that you made that song and we were jamming out to Deadbeat Woman there for a bit. So yeah. Crap. Okay, yeah, let me get the music back on. I'm going to put that in the AI content real quick, just so folks kind of remember the request there. Gentlemen, we have a request from Paul Elam for a song. The song would be titled, "How Much Do I Have to Shit on You to Make You Love Me?" He requests this to be a country song. It's about women. Yeah, let's just go from there. Kind of about how women like being crapped on by men and are attracted to that. Maybe it can be from the POV of a guy who did all the quote-unquote right things and it all went south. Then he asks himself, after seeing who she left him for, how much do I have to shit on you to get you to love me? And, you know, we could put something in there about like how the romantic ethic leads to this real crap situation. Maybe it's about abandoning the romantic ethos because it puts us in this crap situation. Guys, I'm excited to see what you come up for that. I know Paul will appreciate it. So clear. Son. Man, another good song by Dan the Man. Oh, I'm listening. Tell us what Paul wants. Okay, it's all in there in the AI, Dan. Bratan is bro, Bratia is brothers. Thank you for that, Luke. W Stream. Thank you, Avalanche. Appreciate that. Was Deadbeat Woman my idea? I forgot. It might have been your idea, but I think Luke made it. Did you send Paul the album link? I didn't send him the album link. That's a good idea. I need to do that. Good suggestion. Maybe we got time for one more song just to close us out here. We got Better Get My Dowry original. We got radio edit, and we got the remix. Remix. Driving Off Alone. I think Mr. Pitt likes that one. Let's go and do that. That sounds real MGTOW right there. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh, it's playing the same. No. We want Driving Off Alone. There we go. Deadbeat Woman was an idea I took from Paul in another interview. Okay, Luke. Okay, my bad. Thanks for clearing that up, Luke. Deadbeat Woman was an idea I took from Paul in another interview and created and presented to Shah a few weeks later. I literally created Deadbeat Woman because of something Paul said. Got it. Dang it, I wish I would have told Paul that literally something he said is what encouraged the song. Cool, I thought of one. I can't remember the title. Pitt was the one who helped me with the idea. I wonder what song that might have been. Oh man, that's too good. This song is too good right here. AI is crazy. Well, I hope everybody has a good week, and somewhere throughout the week, I plan to get you this amazing panel discussion. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's Paul. It's a pickup artist, Matt Cross. It's John, and then there's me over there. It's coming. It's coming. I'm almost done with it. I just need to get the guys' approval. Yeah, Michael, it might have been this song that was your idea. This is a good song, by the way. God, that's too good. Oh no.
Left fiction bare, keys in the mailbox, no glare, no care. The engine hums, a quiet seal. Best exit ever felt.
Gonna blast that tune when driving. I know this is the one to blast out of the car window. Man, that's too good. I'm gonna post this one individually along with Deadbeat Woman. We got a lot of songs to post. Shah, hit me up with topics you want to hit. Definitely will hit Gold Pill stuff. Absolutely, yeah. Hero, yeah, we'll be having our discussion next week, so the guys will see that coming soon too. Curb Appeal was Mike's idea. Got it. Thank you for that, Avalanche. Curb Appeal was the one you're thinking of. There it is. I want Silver Pill and Gold Pill song. Oh yeah, okay, we can do a combined Silver Pill and Gold Pill song. Remind us on that. All right, legends. I'll let y'all go. It's a pleasure tonight. We had fun. It's a fantastic interview. And next week, 7 p.m., Klaus, I'll reach out to you again. Put that in the content sharing. Have a peaceful evening, everybody. Absolutely. Thank you, Klaus. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Salute, gentlemen.